Chapter 1424. I don't dare to make that step. Chapter 1424. I don't dare to make that step. The God Lord Brian stood up. His eyes had the light of the sun, moon, and the stars, his body radiating brilliant lights. He looked like a light angel. He turned to Minghao, his face nonchalant. You and I've been trapped here for so many years. Our territory is at its most critical time. Maybe Hui is invading us. If you don't want to see only a blank void when we go home, and if you don't want to see all the races killed, you know what to choose. Pausing for a while, Brian took a deep breath. There's something you know already. If our territory is destroyed and if we killed Desolate, all the creatures that Desolate has created and all the souls that were born in Desolate territory would perish in just a blink. You and I can never escape the bind of fate. Unless we can reach the immortal realm soon, there's another way to survive, perhaps. The archaic building was emitting cold light. Minghao was just as big as an ant on the rock compared to the colossal building. He frowned and contemplated. Shiyan knew that Minghao was hesitant. He was considering the God Lord's suggestion. Being trapped for dozens of years, Minghao knew that the complete ancient building would be the key for them to leave this place. Brian the God Lord had the origin of the ancient God continent, which was also a wisp of Desolate's soul. As he came here following the call, it would be the key to unlock this area. The God Lord's suggestion was tempting. Brian wanted Shiyan's co-soul, and he was willing to give up the host's soul with the marvelous devouring power Upanishad, which helped him receive Bloodthirsty's inheritance. It was a lie if he said he wasn't tempted. However, Minghao still hesitated. Shiyan was the heir that Bloodthirsty had chosen. He was the new master of this generation. He also had the origin of the ancient continent. He had qualifications to decode the mysteries of this ancient building too. Joining hands with Shiyan to kill the God Lord and let him discover the building was another option. However, this option was going to be tough. He knew how powerful the God Lord was. He had fought against the God Lord for many years in this area. He knew him well. Even if he got Shiyan on his side now, he wasn't so sure about the success rate. He hesitated and switched his line of sight from the God Lord to Shiyan. Suddenly, his face stiffened as he pried, Immortal Realm. Dozens of years passed since Hui had thrown them here, but it had not been 100 years yet. Shiyan had advanced a big step to the Immortal Realm. Minghao was astounded, indeed. The God Lord also found this. He discolored slightly. As you can break through to the Immortal Realm in just a short time, if I don't kill you now, I won't get a chance later. He then turned to Minghao. It's my chance. This is also your chance. If you let it go, you will have to serve him for the rest of your life. The same thing happened 10,000 years ago. You had to serve Bloodthirsty and you will have to serve him. Minghao, I understand you. I know who you are. What makes you hesitant? Minghao, I've met Minghong. He's alive. He has been in the sea domain of Nihility all the time, and now he is fused with Audrey, said Shiyan all of a sudden. Minghao is shaken. He's still alive. Minghao, kill him. When you get his soul, you can search through his memories, said the God Lord coldly. Is it really hard to leave this place? If so, how could I come here easily, said Shiyan. Minghao lifted his head and looked at Shiyan. Didn't we send you here? This time, the God Lord was also surprised. I came here from the Sea of Annihilation through the light curtain. Above us is the Sea of Annihilation, the most lively and bustling area of the sea domain of Nihility with hundreds of races, said Shiyan calmly. Minghao and the God Lord's eyes brightened. Do you know the location of the entrance to our territory? Shiyan was moved. Of course, yes. Minghao looked at the massive building behind him and the light curtain above their heads. If we can get out of this place, I can find the territory entrance to go back. If you can get in here, you can get out too. Anyway, the two of us have tried. No matter what we do, we can't break the light curtain above. Also, the key to opening the light curtain is possibly in there. He pointed at the ancient building in front of them. What does it say? It's an absolute beginning word. What does it mean? Asked Shiyan. Ask him, frowned Minghao. Shiyan turned to the God Lord. You've fused with the heaven flame more than me. I've traveled through the sea domain of Nihility. I know one thing. If you can fuse all the heaven flames, you can finally open the soul of the absolute beginning creature and get to know the secret of the old times. You can understand the absolute beginning languages, and you can comprehend dark energy too. If all the heaven flames are merged into one, I can learn dark energy? Brian interrupted him excitedly. He suddenly shouted, "Who told you that?" The experts of the 7 great clans in the sea domain of Nihility. They all agree with that. Some know that I have a wisp of the soul of an absolute beginning creature, so they've chased after me. They want to take my soul to break through the Territory Ancestor Realm, explained Shiryen. Territory Ancestor Realm? Minghao and the God Lord looked at each other. After the Immortal Realm, it's the Territory Ancestor Realm. Bloodthirsty should be a Territory Ancestor expert. Dark energy is the key to breakthrough. Shiryen was surprised that the 2 supreme experts in Desolate Territory, the highest existences, didn't know about this realm. Now, he knew how isolated the Desolate Territory was and how far it had drifted away from sea domain of Nihility. I've been dedicatedly studying Bloodthirsty's remains for 10,000 years. I had never thought about fusing the heaven flame completely. I was steered incorrectly from the start. It turns out that the correct way was right inside me. It's not fun at all. Brian didn't know if he should smile or cry. His face became strange. I've been to the sea domain of Nihility for many years, but I haven't met any creature. I thought that the sea domain of Nihility was really a place of nothing. Why could you meet a lot of people? Minghao was skeptical. Shiryen couldn't explain that. He didn't know that Minghong had the answer they needed, either. The route those precursors had taken was derived from the center of the sea domain of Nihility to somewhere remote and unknown. Of course, they couldn't meet any high-level, free creatures in this vast sea of stars. I don't know. When you meet Minghong, you can ask him. Shiryen shook his head. I'm still one step away from fusing all the heaven flames. Recently, I've always restrained myself not to make that step. The God Lord looked at the building with the unknown symbols, his face reluctant. What are you afraid of? Asked Shiryen. As you've said, after I've completely fused with the heaven flames, I can trigger the memory of the soul to understand dark energy. At my realm, I can reach the Territory Ancestor Realm successfully. I can understand the absolute beginning languages too. Anyway, I'm not sure if I will still be me if that happens. What do you mean? Minghao changed his visage. Is it what it has been waiting for the whole time? For me to finally fuse with its soul completely? Will I become part of it and lose myself completely? When that happens, who can tell if I will be just a part of its soul and its soul will swallow me completely? It has been several years, and I still don't have the guts to make that step. I'm hesitant because of this, the God Lord whispered. Minghao knitted his brows. Shiryen looked pensive. He understood the God Lord's concerns. In fact, what the God Lord was concerned about was also his issue. He was worried that one day, when the co-soul finally fused all the heaven flames, he would lose himself instantly. The origin of Grace Mainland would replace him. However, he didn't have deep thoughts like the God Lord. I want to ask you, how many souls do you have? Asked Shiryen. Of course, only one. The God Lord replied and then said, I know you have 2 souls. You're not like us. The devouring power Upanishad that you have is too evil. You're Desolate's archenemy. If you hadn't had the co-soul, your soul would have been swallowed by the origin of Grace Mainland. The God Lord's eyes brightened. His heart beat faster when he thought about something. He knew what Shiryen was going to say next. Indeed. Shiryen smiled straightforwardly. Then why do you want to kill me? Even if you kill me to get my soul, you still have only one soul. You will still be afraid because you don't know what will happen when you stimulate the soul with the origin. You don't know if you will be replaced or not. You're scared. But I'm not. I have 2 souls. I have more options than you. Even if it happens as you say, I will at most lose my co-soul and that won't kill me. Minghao understood. He turned to the God Lord and said, if you are afraid, we can let him try it first. Let him fuse with the heaven flames and see what will happen. We don't know how long it will take until he completely fuses all the heaven flames. I've been waiting for 10,000 years, snorted the God Lord. I still have 2 flows of heaven flames to fuse. I think it won't take up to 1 billion years, grinned Shiryen. The God Lord kept silent. After a long time, he sat back on his pile of rocks. Maybe I should wait longer. He was still afraid. He was afraid that he would be replaced by the ancient god continent's origin after he had merged all the heaven flames. A long, long time ago, Bloodthirsty's last words had told him that he was just a pawn of Desolate. He was just a pawn to kill Bloodthirsty. He could feel Desolate's power every minute in his territory. Because he was aware of Desolate's existence. He knew how terrible it was. Thus, he was scared. Also, he had spent 10,000 years studying Bloodthirsty's remains. Headed this as he wanted to learn dark energy. He didn't dare to make the final step. From some aspect, he thought Bloodthirsty was right, so what he said had affected him for 10,000 years. Of course, if he fused with the last heaven flame to perceive dark energy and reach the territory ancestor realm, but was still himself and not replaced by the origin of the ancient god continent, there would be nothing to discuss. If that happened, Bloodthirsty's last words were just a lie to harm him. That expert had arranged him another match that had held him back for 10,000 years, making him stuck at the peak of a mortal realm. The God Lord couldn't guess what would happen. He had to wait until Shuryen had fused the heaven flame to guess and to know Bloodthirsty's real intentions. Chapter 1425, It Is. Life. Chapter 1425, It Is. Life, _ Go there and see if you can break the light curtain. While Brian the God Lord was sinking in his thoughts, Minghao suggested to Shuryen to soar up into the sky. Shuryen nodded and didn't think too much about it. He floated up and flew to the light dome that looked like the sky. After a while, he was hovering right below the light curtain. Observing the ground, he found ruins everywhere. Only the building where Minghao and the God Lord were in was intact. Turning into a starlight jet, he tried to pierce through the light curtain. Boom! It was like he had barged into an invisible rubber wall. His body was forced backward. He urged dark energy, hiding his body and storming forward again. Boom! He bounced back again. His body ached so hard that he thought his frame would break. Wincing, he frowned and assessed the light curtain. He found that the ripples were just outside. They didn't exist inside. The light curtain had stopped them. The seawater above the light curtain rolled and seethed. It looked like Shuryen's impact had created that. A starlight saber stabbed the light curtain. Crack! The saber exploded and turned into a sprinkle of starlight dots. The light curtain stayed the same. He frowned and tried the sharp space saber this time. However, an unknown force had stimulated his energy and exploded it before he could form a space saber. After trying many times, Shuryen gradually lost hope. His face grew heavy. It's strange. It's like a one-way barrier. I've tried all my tricks, but I can't get through the light curtain. He returned to Minghao and Brian, his face strange. I guess you've tried everything you can in the dozens of years you were trapped here, right? Minghao and Brian grimaced when they heard him. They looked at the building covered with absolute beginning symbols and said nothing. After a while, Brian said coldly, "It seems like it's the key. We were right. If only we can explore this ancient building, we will find a way to leave." Minghao nodded to him as he also agreed with his conclusion. The ruins under the light curtain. As soon as Audrey landed, she didn't say anything but flew toward the direction of the call. It was also where Shuryen was. Meiji kept an eye on her. Seeing Audrey have a target, she had an idea to follow her silently. Lingmei, Farlow, and Yerberg landed in the middle of the ruins. They observed and became bewildered upon seeing the massive vestige. This place looks like an ancient city. Something happened and it became ruins. Yerberg walked around and found nothing precious. It's really massive. We should disperse. Perhaps we will find something. What do you think? Farlow and Lingmei wore cold faces. Before they found something, they didn't want to start a dispute. They scattered and raked through the ruins with the hope of finding something. After an unknown time, a gray silhouette descended from the sky and landed by Farlow and Telika. He was extremely ugly and had a fat body like a meatball. His face had so many lumps like toad skin. Briefly speaking, he looked nauseating. This old, disgusting man had a pair of narrow eyes, which were sparkling a sinister light. He was holding a rhombus staff inlaid with a lot of precious gems. He landed, lifted his head, and said, "You can come now. There's no problem. Remember what you've promised me." As soon as he finished, Tate of the Soul clan laughed and slowly landed, followed by several members of his clan. An elderly woman from the Devouring clan with an erosive aura came after Tate. Her deep, turquoise eyes had a strange light as they were raking around like a venomous snake. Ah! Farlow and Telika discolored in fear. They panicked and looked at those who had just arrived. They had been in this vast vestige for several days without finding anything. Today, when they saw someone they knew, they were discreetly frightened. "Greetings, Precursor Batum." After being astonished for a while, Telika smiled and greeted the ugly, fat old man. Batum was like a round ball that was even more loathsome than a toad. He rolled his eyes at Telika and grinned, "Black Demon Clan. You're fast. How are you doing? Did you find anything?" While talking, his eyes scanned Telika and Farlow as if he would rob them when he found something. Telika and Farlow were chilled. Instinctively, they moved backward. Telika said, "Nothing. There are only ruins here. We haven't found anything valuable." He rose his hands and continued, "Before we came here, we asked our Precursor for permission. He knows where we are. Precursor, don't trouble us." "How do you know I would trouble you guys?" Batum curled his lips, his face malicious and dark. "Meiji is here too," said Farlow all of a sudden. It was a good topic to shift Batum's focus. His narrow eyes brightened and he laughed vulgarly. "My woman is here." "Excellent. I've been trying to find her several times. She wasn't home. It turns out that she came to this place after she returned to the Sea of Annihilation. My woman is very active. She has good intelligence too." "Don't waste our time," snorted the old woman of the Devouring clan. She impatiently rolled her eyes at Batum. Batum wore a cold face. "Tate invited me here. I'm not subjected to you. You shouldn't tell me what to do. Precursors, please, don't." Tate hurried to reconcile them. "We have the same goal. Moreover, I have better information. We shouldn't have internal conflicts at this moment. To find this place, our Soul clan has planned for years. Hundreds of warriors died. Today we finally got here. Don't start another battle before we find something." Batum and the Devouring clan woman didn't say more. They snorted and turned away. Farlow and Telika exchanged looks. They saw fear in each other's eyes. Finally, they knew they had just shallow information. For this vestige, the Soul clan had sacrificed hundreds of warriors. They had planned this for years. Tate's teacher also came to the Sea of Annihilation this time. They didn't know why he had to come here, but now they knew. They finally realized that Tate's teacher came here because of this vestige. Then, they turned to look around to find that old freak. However, they didn't see him. "Where's my woman?" Batum gazed at Telika. Telika forced a smile and shook his head. "As soon as she came, she left. This place is so spacious. Who knows where she is?" "Your woman." Telika disdained him secretly. Recalling when Shuryen and Meiji stated their relationship, he was waiting to see how outrageous Batum would be when he learned about that. He didn't dare to tell him now as he was afraid that Batum wouldn't care about the Black Demon clan and kill him and Farlow if he got enraged. "Prioritize our business." Tate looked at the area ahead. "We should reach the destination first." Batum and the old woman from the Devouring clan nodded. Tate guided them toward the direction Audrey and Meiji had disappeared. Watching them hurry to leave, Farlow pondered for a while and then said, "It seems like we only have shallow information." As soon as Meiji came here, she headed to that direction too. It means that something important was there. Why would we waste our time here? Let's go. We should go there and see. At least we have to know what happened so we have something to report to the clan when we go home, said Telika begrudgingly. Deep inside the ruins under the light dome, Ling Mei and the members of the mysterious Sky Clan were searching around. Suddenly, they lifted their heads to look. Batum, Tate, and the others were gliding above their heads. Batum stooped to see her. He looked surprised, but he didn't stop. Ling Mei let out a slight cough and gathered her clansmen. "Batum and Tate are here." They're heading to the same direction Meiji had left. They didn't stop along the way. It seems like they know something we don't. We shouldn't walk around aimlessly like this. Madam, please decide, thundered the men. We're going there too. Lingmei decided and then led her fellows by flying up. Soon, they found Telika and Farlow behind. They were more certain with the decision to go this direction. If we can't explore this ancient building, we will never be able to leave. This place is the key. Minghao stooped like a meditating monk. I can't sense the call here. Only you two have the ability to do that. Think harder. What method do I have? The God Lord's voice was so cold. If I had a solution, I would have done it a long time ago. You can't get in there? Shuryen was surprised. You can try, ridiculed the God Lord. Let me think for a while. As Shuryen found that the God Lord can't do anything, he didn't hurry to try. He found a place and sat on the rock pile not far from the other two. He lifted his head to observe the building with the moving absolute beginning symbols and tried to think. Quietly, Shuryen moved his soul altar to stimulate the power Upanishads and change them constantly. The star, devouring, space, and death power Upanishads took turns moving. The aura on his body changed accordingly. It was immense, and then it turned into a bottomless dark cave. The next moment, it disappeared and reappeared with heavy death chi. His aura changed marvelously. He was urging the life power Upanishad. All of a sudden, a strong vibe came from the tier of power Upanishad. The life power Upanishad surged. His head now became a sea of life with endless vitality. Almost instantaneously, billions of absolute beginning symbols on the ancient building glowed as bright as the stars. Brian and Ming how discolored as they were dumbstruck. They lifted their heads to look at the brilliant ancient building. At the same time, Shuryen suddenly understood the meaning of those absolute beginning words. So many identical absolute beginning symbols had the same and only meaning, life. Chapter 1426, The Absolute Beginning Original Symbol. Chapter 1426, The Absolute Beginning Original Symbol, _. The massive archaic building was as big as a mountain. It looked like a tower with hundreds of thousands of windows. Countless absolute beginning symbols were moving on this building. Those absolute beginning symbols represented life. Shuryen gathered his spirit and observed, revolving his soul altar to stimulate life power Upanishad. Swoosh! His soul altar flew out of his head and moved like a huge cluster of clouds towards the top of the tower-like ancient building. Shuryen's body was still. His bright eyes were dim and blank. The God Lord Brian and Minghao realized the commotion. They emerged from the piles of rocks. Their minds moved along with Shuryen's soul altar and checked every small change. At this moment, Shuryen's body didn't have the soul altar to guard and control. He became like a rock statue. If Brian had any dark thought, he could kill Shuryen easily. Minghao discreetly watched Brian. Don't doubt me. He's still valuable to me. I won't kill him. Brian smiled indifferently. I'm waiting to see what will happen to him when he finishes fusing with the heaven flames. Moreover, he triggered some changes here. We're counting on him to take us out of here. Minghao looked at him in the eyes. Several seconds later, he quieted down. Then, they focused on Shuryen's soul altar. That soul altar was like a massive cluster of clouds with many tiers. The lowest tier was the Sea of Consciousness, which was a vast, misty sea. Above the Sea of Consciousness was the tier of power Upanishads with some marvelous features. It had a jet-black cave that was moving like a massive mouth that could swallow everything. It was the devouring power Upanishad. It had a galaxy with twinkling stars, the star power Upanishad. There was a crystal ball where the life energy fluctuated continuously. Of course, it was the life power Upanishad. A strange mirror stood on a corner and reflected many different spaces. It was the space power Upanishad. Another section had a whole gray, cold, isolated land with thick death chi. It was the death power Upanishad. Those were the wonders on the tier of power Upanishads. After Shuryen had reached the immortal realm, his power Upanishads had transformed while he didn't notice. They had turned into tangible matter and stayed in his tier of power Upanishads. The Sea of Fire with the original flames was separated with the Power Upanishads even though they shared the same tier. They were like the yin and yang fish. Above the tier of Power Upanishads and Heaven Flames was a star area that had been resized billions of times smaller. It had a vast space, numerous stars where ancient trees, mountains, and rivers grew. Although Death Chi hovered, there was no creature. It was his incipient extent. Before it opened, it looked a little vague. The co-soul and the host's soul occupied the place above the incipient extent and floated like the two gods watching the immense incipient extent, the tier of Power Upanishads and the Sea of Consciousness. The two godlike souls had different positions. The host's soul was hovering a little higher than the co-soul. The co-soul was adjoining with the incipient extent. It looked like they had fused with each other, and below them was the tier of Heaven Flames. The co-soul was floating above the tier of Heaven Flame and blending harmoniously with the incipient extent. That was Shuryan's soul altar. Today, the cloud-like soul altar slowly floated. Eventually, it hovered above the top of the ancient tower. The Sea of Consciousness at the bottom of that soul altar rippled strangely and fiercely. The crystal ball that represented the life Power Upanishad on the tier of Power Upanishads was glowing in a strange halo with surging vitality. Then, the Sea of Consciousness began to create many light layers and shroud the colossal tower. Miraculously, the absolute beginning symbols on the tower began to move. From the bottom of the tower, they slowly moved upward and merged with each other on the way. The absolute beginning symbols of the lower floors slowly moved upward and fused with the absolute beginning symbols on the upper floors. It looked like the worms were moving into a small snake. It was utterly bizarre. Brian and Ming Hao looked at each other. Even with their profound knowledge, they didn't know what was going on over there. The only thing they could do was wait. They had to wait until this finished. Meanwhile, they had to try their best to protect Shuryan to make his body and soul altar get through this peculiar change. I admire this kid. It seems like he got lucky again. Previously, he wasn't even at incipient God realm. After dozens of years, he has reached the immortal realm. He's not far from us, said Ming Hao with some emotion. Brian snorted. Everything is because of the devouring Power Upanishad. This sort of energy collecting evil technique could give him endless ability. With devouring Power Upanishad, he doesn't need to worry about not gathering enough energy. However, he still needs to study the realm. You and I understand clearly that realm comprehension is much more difficult than accumulating energy. As he has reached his realm today, it's enough to prove one thing: his innate talent is also ultimately extraordinary, said Ming Hao indifferently. Brian looked pensive. What was taking place in front of him proved that Ming Hao wasn't lying or exaggerating. Although it was the overbearing power of the devouring Power Upanishad that had boosted Shuryan's realm, they couldn't deny that Shuryan was excellent in learning his realm. With his pride and position, Brian had to admit that Shuryan wasn't weaker than anyone. They didn't continue their topic and just watched Shuryan, waiting to see how the situation was going to develop. 10 days flew hurriedly. The absolute beginning symbols on dozens of lower floors were all gone as they merged upward. Afterward, they became more dazzling and livelier. The vitality emitting from them was so formidable. What is going to happen? Muttered Ming Hao. The God Lord was waiting. He was waiting for Shuryan to solve the riddle of this ancient building. He longed to get back to desolate territory. As the chief of the God clan in desolate territory, he understood that his homeland was at a critical moment because of Hui. He was worried about his fellow people and desolate territory. He wanted to leave as soon as possible. Suddenly, he frowned and looked afar. Someone is coming. Ming Hao was startled. But then, his eyes brightened as he smiled. 6 hours later, a chilly silhouette came with white mist. As soon as she appeared, she was amazed and yelled, "Uncle." She looked at Ming Hao and felt both happy and worried. Ming Hao smiled for the first time. Good. Finally, you're here. I heard you got. He smiled and raked his eyes on her as if he was searching for something. His line of sight stopped by the dark figure laying on Audrey's shoulder. He was shocked and he shivered. He made a deep bow. "Teacher, you're still alive." Ming Hao grinned strangely. "After 10,000 years, you kiddo, you've reached such a realm. You didn't fail my favor that year." Ming Hong was Ming Hao's first teacher ever. He was also his uncle in the clan. Of course, he could show his superiority. Ming Hao bent his body respectfully. Don't worry, teacher. I will help you get rid of the brutal soul bind. I will find a good imperial dark body for you so you can continue your cultivation. We'll talk about it later. Ming Hong waved his hand and sat up. He was like a little human sitting on Audrey's shoulder. What are you doing here? Swish. Another warrior arrived. Meiji appeared with her mind-stirring beauty. Ming Hao and Brian the God Lord were puzzled. They looked dazzled and stunned, though. However, they had recovered after a few seconds as they had forcefully removed the mind-puzzling state. Meiji looked at them. She didn't know what happened. But the fact that Ming Hao and the God Lord weren't affected by her enchanting technique had frightened her. As soon as she arrived, she purposely used her soul enchanting technique. When she used this powerful technique, even ones with dark energy like Batum were affected. They couldn't recover as quickly as these two did. Brian and Ming Hao had taken only a few seconds to resume their sound minds. As far as she'd known, even normal territory ancestor realm experts didn't have such tough minds and spirits. Meiji was scared. No one can disturb this place. We should kill anyone we don't know, Brian said nonchalantly and ruthlessly. You want to do that, or should I do that? He asked Ming Hao. Hearing him, Meiji felt so chilled. Brian's inhuman deeds had brought colors to her face. She immediately realized that this stranger used to have bloody karma. This sort of character would have no mercy to the beauty. Even when she had applied the enchanting technique on him, he still wanted to kill her. This man was truly cold-blooded. Ming Hao didn't pay attention to him. He turned to Audrey and asked skeptically, "Who is this beautiful woman? If you don't know her, we'll kill her. We don't want anyone to be bothered." As Ming Hao was the soul-controlled chief of the bloodthirsty force, his hands were soaked in blood. Killing wasn't a burden in his heart. Somehow, it was a fun and enjoyable act. I'm here to find Shiryan. It was unfortunate for Meiji. She wasn't weaker than Ming Hao and Brian, but she hadn't recovered fully from her previous battle. Moreover, after 10,000 years, Ming Hao and Brian had killed billions of creatures. She couldn't compare to their aura. Instinctively, she was fearful. Looking for Shiryan? Ming Hao had a strange countenance. He turned to look at the soul altar floating above the massive tower and mocked her. Oh, dogs will always eat sh*t. This rascal kid always messes with beautiful women. Even when he came here, he still maintained such behaviors. He ridiculed Shiryan, but it somehow applied on Meiji too. However, after he finished, he found that his niece was blushing. He was so stunned. Are you also with him? Ming Hao forced a smile, looking at Audrey. Audrey was so embarrassed. The Power Upanishad Symbol Tower. Absolute beginning original symbols. However, at this moment, Ming Hong, who was sitting on Audrey's shoulder, suddenly screamed. He flew out and circled like an ugly bat. I remember it. Singh had an appointment with Tate. They said that they would come to the seabed to find it. It's real, unexpectedly. He looked at the massive ancient tower and the absolute beginning symbols and got strangely excited. Chapter 1427, The Ultimate Power Upanishad. Chapter 1427, The Ultimate Power Upanishad, _ Ming Hong was like a little bat circling a massive ancient tower. He was cautious enough not to touch the tower. Apparently, he knew its power. Brian and Ming Hao saw his strange deeds, so they stopped paying attention to Audrey and Meiji. Audrey's blushing slowly subsided. She blamed her uncle for his dog-like mouth that couldn't have elephant ivory. He didn't say anything good enough. Ming Hong circled the ancient tower for a while. He seemed to confirm something. Then, he came back to Audrey's shoulder and sighed. I can't believe what Tate had said is true. Brian, Ming Hao, Audrey, and Meiji looked at him and waited for him to explain. Ming Hong didn't go around the bush. Very early on, the Soul Clan knew that the Sea of Annihilation seabed had an absolute beginning vestige. They have sent a lot of warriors to search and explore. Lately, they found the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower. They said they even found the absolute beginning original symbol. Tate contacted Singh and invited him for this search mission. Singh had agreed. He planned to finish his business on Dragon Lizard Star before going to the Sea of Annihilation to find the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower. What's the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower? Frowned Minghao. You know it, don't you? Minghong grinned and looked at Meiji from a distance. Indeed, Meiji nodded. I know the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower. The Power Upanishad Symbol Tower has two functions. It contains or creates the absolute beginning original symbol. The Power Upanishad Symbol Tower is a tool that absolute beginning creatures created. It's like a container. Somehow, it's similar to the bone pond of the White Bone clan. However, it's much more mysterious. I heard from the precursor in my clan that each of the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower has hundreds of levels. To create an absolute beginning original symbol, it requires a lot of things. For example, asked Brian. For example, to refine an ice absolute beginning original symbol, it requires millions of warriors who cultivate ice power Upanishad from the very beginning level to the utmost level to be sacrificial objects. She rose her porcelain hand and pointed at so many windows on the massive tower at the lowest level. Those windows lock many warriors cultivating ice power Upanishad. From the lowest level, the warriors' realms are in increasing order: elementary, nascent, human realm, disaster realm, earth realm, nirvana realm, sky realm, spirit god realm, true god realm, king god realm, original god realm, ethereal god realm, incipient god realm, immortal realm, and even experts at territory ancestor realm. As the ultimate powers of the absolute beginning original symbol are different, the arrangement of the warriors at different realms is also different. For example, the elementary warriors could be placed in the lowest 10 levels or up to the 20th level. No matter what thought, the low realm warriors are placed lower as a foundation. Look at it. You can see that the lower levels of the tower are large. The number of warriors that act as a foundation could be millions. Also, there are actually so many of them to be found. The tower gets smaller all the way to the top with fewer and fewer windows. It's because the higher the realm of the warriors, they are harder to find. See, there are around dozens of windows for incipient god realm and 10 windows for immortal realm. Above them is the window for the territory ancestor realm. It can vary. If they want to refine the top quality absolute beginning original symbol with the ultimate supernatural power, they will need at least one expert at territory ancestor realm. The refining process is simple. Once the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower opens, it will take the streaks of Power Upanishad in those warriors cultivating Ice Power Upanishad imprisoned in those windows. Then, their spirit, soul, and chi will become one absolute beginning symbol representing Ice Power Upanishad. After that, it will leave the window and move around the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower unceasingly. If all those absolute beginning symbols merge together, they will create an absolute beginning original symbol, which carries the supernatural abilities of a Power Upanishad. According to what you said, to refine an absolute beginning original symbol, it will need dozens of thousands of creatures cultivating the same Power Upanishad as the sacrifices. Also, the sacrifice requires incipient god realm, immortal realm, and even territory ancestor realm experts. The God Lord grimaced. It's true. Meiji also felt chilled from the bottom of her heart. To receive the ultimate power Upanishad from the absolute beginning original symbol, it will need a territory ancestor realm expert as a sacrifice. The ultimate power Upanishad? Minghao is also astounded. The absolute beginning creatures could create billions of lives in their own territory in that era. Those creatures were used as sacrifices to refine the absolute beginning original symbol. It's like how we breed and grow spirit beasts or herbs until they are at a specific strength or qualification when we will kill them or harvest them to refine tools, weapons, and pellets, explained Meiji. Brian and Minghao exchanged looks. Their countenances became odder as they sighed inwardly. They lived in desolate territory where desolate was the lord of all things. If it was as Meiji had just explained, they were the creatures desolate had bred and nurtured to refine as pellets later. They were materials with various qualification. The lowest quality products would become the foundation of the power Upanishad symbol tower. Experts at their realm could become the sacrifice at the top of the tower. Although their realms were different, their consequences were the same. They were materials that Desolate would use to create something. I heard from my precursors that in a territory, after dozens of thousands of years of selecting from the elementary to the incipient god realm or immortal realm, the number of qualified warriors is just enough to refine one absolute beginning original symbol. If they have a territory ancestor realm expert, the absolute beginning original symbol produced will be at a higher quality. The absolute beginning original symbol is much more precious than the immortal pellet. If it's true that the absolute beginning original symbol contains the ultimate power Upanishad, it is. Meiji shook her head. Magical light shot out from her eyes as she watched Shuryan's soul altar hover above the power Upanishad symbol tower. What is he doing? Brian asked with a dark face. Taking the absolute beginning original symbol. One of his power Upanishads is matched with that absolute beginning original symbol, sighed Meiji. Life power Upanishad. Minghao is surprised. The absolute beginning original symbol in that power Upanishad symbol tower is the life power Upanishad. Those absolute beginning symbols mean life. God Lord Brian's heart beat faster. He thought and then clutched his chest, feeling so bitter. Both Brian and Minghao didn't cultivate life power Upanishad. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't get it. Moreover, they needed that tower to leave this place. Even if they were indignant, they had to watch and wait for Shuryan to take the absolute beginning original symbol. Also, when dangers were going to come, they had to protect Shuryan too. They knew what the ultimate supernatural abilities were. The Blood Soul Sea and the Death and Life Rotating Bridge were Shuryan's supernatural abilities. They were secret techniques formed with nature's principles, so somehow, they were the gifts of nature. The ultimate power Upanishad was the origin of a power Upanishad, the last and most profound form with the deepest and most magical abilities, which could even become a principle. The ultimate power Upanishad was the principle of a power Upanishad. It was marvelously unrivaled as it was the rules of earth and heaven that even the territory ancestor realm experts couldn't understand. Would it be anything more painful than watching the other take the treasure and have to protect him instead of competing for that treasure? Minghao and Brian had twisted faces as if their entire families were killed in front of them. The feeling was like a volcano as they had to suppress them, almost causing internal wounds. Power Upanishad symbol tower. It's a power Upanishad symbol tower. We found it. However, Tate's wild laughter came from a far distance. He was screaming, his face eccentric. It's the power Upanishad symbol tower, really, and it's a complete preserved one. Batum and the old woman from the devouring clan were so excited and shivering. They looked at the power Upanishad symbol tower from a distance as if they were eyeing countless mountains of gold and treasures. Someone is taking the absolute beginning original symbol. Batum's face was like the face of a strange, wiggling snake. He was extremely ugly. He screamed like he had just gotten stabbed and dashed towards the power Upanishad symbol tower as he thundered, "That darn kid, he doesn't want to live anymore. You think you deserve to compete for the absolute beginning original symbol? You should be dead 1,000,000 times. Batum." Meiji's face was pale as she whined. Batum stooped to see Meiji. He was bewildered for a while and then laughed crazily. "After I kill that kid and get the absolute beginning original symbol, I will have a talk with you. Precursors, we had a clear deal. You two can take the absolute beginning original symbol. The power Upanishad symbol tower will belong to our soul clan. I'm going to report to my teacher. He'll come shortly." Tate pitched his voice. "Tate, do you know what is the biggest mistake you've made?" The old woman of the devouring clan suddenly smiled eccentrically. Tate was bewildered. "What?" "You shouldn't do it behind your teacher's back. You shouldn't be so greedy to get this soup for yourself alone. You didn't report this to your teacher. That was your biggest mistake." The old woman from the devouring clan grinned. Her soul altar spun, and a piece of a disgusting swamp swarmed over, covering Tate and some warriors of the Soul Clan. Within several seconds, Tate melted into the dirty water in the swamp. The old woman got rid of her erosive swamp and looked at Batum. To refine an absolute beginning original symbol, it needs the creatures of an entire territory. Batum, you cultivate alone. Even if you get the tower, you don't have enough power to refine the absolute beginning original symbol. Only the 7 great clans can do that. We should make a deal, shouldn't we? Batum was about to attack her. Realizing that the absolute beginning symbols hadn't finished merging, he halted and asked, "What deal?" "You take this unknown absolute beginning original symbol. You can exchange it for anything from a territory ancestor realm expert with the matched power Upanishad. This power Upanishad symbol tower will belong to our devouring clan. I can pledge that our devouring clan will find the sacrifices to help you refine another absolute beginning original symbol that matches your power Upanishad," hissed the old woman. Batum was hesitant. However, Meiji suddenly called him. "Batum, if you help our phantom clan take that power Upanishad symbol tower, I agree with you. I will marry you and serve you as much as you want. I can promise you that the phantom clan will try our best to refine an absolute beginning original symbol for you." Batum became more hesitant. "Batum, it's just a woman. When you reach the territory ancestor realm and you get the absolute beginning original symbol, what else will you not be able to have?" The devouring clan old woman sneered. "Even right now, I can confine this woman and you can do whatever you want with her." Meiji's soft body quivered. Chapter 1428, Rise the Might in the Foreign Land. Chapter 1428, Rise the Might in the Foreign Land. Meiji knew that hag and how cunningly malicious she was. Hearing her, Meiji was chilled. This hag was called Ganfu. She was also an infamous expert of the devouring clan. She cultivated corrosion power Upanishad, and she often used low-realm creatures to cultivate her secret technique. She had offended all the second-class races subjected to the devouring clan. Those clans had complained and wanted to leave the devouring clan's protection. When Ganfu heard that they wanted to punish her, she didn't say anything and just used her corrosion power Upanishad to destroy those clans. She had even melted their territory. Ganfu's inhuman deeds made her less welcome even in her own clan. If she hadn't had dark energy, which enabled her to reach the territory ancestor realm, the experts of devouring clan would have had to confine her and keep her from offending more people. Ganfu was sinister and ruthless. She could kill people without blinking her eyes once. However, she was loyal to the devouring clan. Because of the power Upanishad symbol tower, she had put more effort, indeed. Tate was greedy. He didn't report the progress of this mission to his teacher. He thought that with his teacher's reputation, Ganfu would listen to him. And now, Tate was just a puddle of blood. Ganfu had eroded him completely. This venomous hag wasn't afraid of Tate's teacher because of the power Upanishad symbol tower. Of course, she didn't consider Meiji anything important. If Meiji was at her peak condition, even if she couldn't defeat Ganfu, she could run away safely. However, she couldn't leave deliberately. Ganfu didn't care about the Soul Clan and killed Tate. Of course, she wouldn't hesitate to confine her and offend the Phantom Clan too. This made Meiji insecure. She turned to Batum unconsciously. Batum hovered in midair, his face uncertain. He was struggling in his mind. Batum was also the lord of an area. Thinking for a few seconds, he grinned and nodded to the old woman. "Hey poisonous hag, get Meiji for me. I'm going to get the absolute beginning original symbol first. You can take the power Upanishad symbol tower as long as you promise to refine me an absolute beginning original symbol suitable for my power Upanishad first." "Deal." Ganfu grinned like a banshee. Hovering in the void, she extended her hand to grab Meiji. Hundreds of dusky vipers danced like vines and spurted dark smoke as they tried to tie Meiji. Meiji's eyes were cold while she changed her power Upanishad. Rumble. Crystal icicles of around dozens of meters jutted out of Meiji's sexy body. All of them were chilled to the bone and as sharp as a steel knife. Meiji now looked like a big hedgehog with many spikes. "I knew you would do that." Ganfu sounded disdainful. The gray vipers were strangely agile. They were hissing ear-piercingly. When the icicles zoomed near, They released a terrifying erosive aura that turned into ash-gray flames and smoke in the next moment and covered Meiji's body entirely. The gray flame was melting Meiji's ice. Meiji can't run now. Ganfu lifted her head with pride and urged Batum. Get down here quickly. She cautiously looked at Minghao and Brian. She focused especially on Minghao because she felt insecure almost instantly when she saw him. She felt a familiar aura on him. It was like when she was facing extraordinary warriors cultivating soul control power Upanishad in her clan. Among the 8 great, evil power Upanishads, not many power Upanishads were complete. Many of them couldn't derive the deepest part or the most powerful part of their abilities. Minghao gave her an extremely strange feeling. She thought it was absurd, but she felt like she was facing an expert with complete and profound soul control power Upanishad. While attacking Meiji, she discreetly observed Minghao and tried to find something that could help her get rid of that puzzling feeling. In the same manner, Minghao is also shaken. He looked at Ganfu using her corrosion power Upanishad, his eyes so strange. The sea domain of Nihility has 7 great clans including the Soul Clan, the Mysterious Sky Clan, the Black Demon Clan, the Ancient Monster Clan, the Devouring Clan, the White Bone Clan, and the Phantom Clan. The Devouring Clan consists of the descendants of Devour, the absolute beginning creature. Their exclusive power Upanishad is the Devouring Power Upanishad. However, it has been lost early on. Now, they focus only on the 8 great, evil power Upanishads. After a long time, their power Upanishads aren't complete anymore. Audrey's cold but clear voice arose and told the secrets that Minghao and the God Lord didn't know, including the Devouring Clan's profile. Minghao and the God Lord understood it immediately. They exchanged looks and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Well, you've been keeping an eye on our bloodthirsty force for 10,000 years. I'm leaving that poisonous woman to you. Deal with her. After pondering for a while, Minghao spoke when he saw Batum and Ganfu seal their deal. I'll take care of that, Batum. We'll take 1 each. It will be much faster. He talked about it as it was something easy to do. However, his voice was soaked with murderous intentions, which was utterly frightening. Meiji was startled. She knew that Minghao and the God Lord weren't ordinary experts. She knew that they were strong, but she couldn't sense the aura of the Territory Ancestor Realm experts on them. So if they weren't Territory Ancestor Realm experts, how could they confront Batum and Ganfu? Both Batum and Ganfu had dark energy. They had made 1 step into Territory Ancestor Realm. Haughty, Meiji sneered inwardly. However, what happened next shook her heart. It was like a storm washing through her head. Light that fills the sky, surge with me. The God Lord clapped his hands in front of his chest. The void behind him bloomed with blinding light. This holy halo had the power of 5 elements power Upanishad: metal, wood, water, fire, earth. The 5 power Upanishads were chained by light. At this moment, the God Lord looked like an archangel coming to earth from heaven with endless terrifying pressure. Billions of light beams shot out from his body and shelled Ganfu. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Ganfu's corrosive energy evaporated under the light as if she had been exposed under the sunlight for a long time. Ganfu was also affected. She smoked and screamed. She couldn't focus on Meiji anymore. Meiji could relax a little bit as Ganfu had retrieved erosive energy attacking her to deal with the God Lord. Who are you? Ganfu's face changed. You don't have dark energy, but you are really strong. You're not from the 7 great clans. Who are you? The God Lord's power had frightened Ganfu. She couldn't believe that an opponent at this level could scare her. Instinctively, she turned to Batum to check his situation. At first glance, Ganfu panicked and screamed ear-piercingly. Soul Control Power Upanishad. Who are you? Why can you use the Soul Control Power Upanishad? It's the Devouring Clan's Power Upanishad. Minghao had turned into billions of gloomy shadows. Each shadow was one of his soul clones. The soul energy fluctuated from countless clones and created a soul chain that tied Batum's soul altar down. Once his soul altar was bound, Batum, who had almost entered the Territory Ancestor Realm, was going to be possessed. He was going to become one of Ming Hao's soul slave. It was how domineering the soul control power Upanishad was. The soul control power Upanishad that Ming Hao was using now was the most powerful technique. Even high realm warriors cultivating this power Upanishad in the devouring clan couldn't do that. It was unimaginable to Ganfu. Brian, do you see that the warriors of the sea domain of Nihility are just like them? Perhaps the 4 heavenly kings under your command could fight with third sky of immortal realm experts here. I think it's a little strange, said Ming Hao all of a sudden. The God Lord had the same feeling. The sea was the center of this entire universe. It was the place where high-level creatures gathered. Logically, their power Upanishads and realms were the top ones. They were supposed to be stronger than the warriors from desolate territory. But it was like that, actually. Ganfu cultivated corrosion power Upanishad at third sky of immortal realm, which was a higher realm than Gato, the corrosion chief, had when he was alive. However, when Brian fought against Ganfu, he found that Gato and Ganfu weren't very different. However, he believed that if Gato had been at third sky of immortal realm, he would have been much stronger than Ganfu. The devouring clan received power Upanishads from Devour. Their power Upanishads are too ancient. When Devour and Desolate fought, Devour had developed his power Upanishads to be much more profound. The power Upanishads he had given Bloodthirsty are of course better and more marvelous. For a long period of time, Bloodthirsty had cultivated those power Upanishads with his excellent talents. He had completed them and gave them new faces and abilities. At the same time, the devouring clan often has internal wars, which has worn out their power Upanishads little by little. If we have to compare, they aren't as strong as you two. Ming Hong was still lying on Audrey's shoulder. As he had lived in the sea domain of Nihility for 10,000 years, he had profound knowledge. He told them the main reasons immediately. Desolate territory was created by Desolate. I heard that a long, long time ago, Desolate was the most outstanding existence. It has 2 absolute beginning divine weapons too. One is very marvelous. It can create lives. That's why the experts from Desolate territory have the same realms as the warriors from any territory in the sea domain of Nihility. We can even be more prominent than them in some aspects. It's not strange that we can challenge the experts at a higher realm. It's because of Desolate and the 2 absolute beginning divine weapons. The God Lord was startled. He frowned and started thinking. He also got a wisp of Desolate's soul. He used to visit Desolate too. He knew about the existences of the fountainhead of power Upanishads and the ancient tree of life. He had vaguely thought that these 2 could be the absolute beginning divine weapons from before. And now, with Ming Hong's explanation, he had the answer to his question. Desolate. Bloodthirsty. Ganfu suddenly bellowed and pointed at the God Lord and Ming Hao. You are from that evil place. You come from the same place as that demon Bloodthirsty. You damn pagans. You've stolen the previous assets of our devouring clan. You've despicably stolen the power Upanishads of our clan. All of you deserve 1,000,000 times of death. Even your ancestor Devour was defeated in our desolate territory. What storm can you rise? The God Lord looked cold and harsh. A brilliant, 5-colored light with the 5 stars, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth was as dazzling as diamonds that crossed the sky and snatched over Ganfu. Ganfu was like a sinister, viper that was dragged out of its lair and laid under the blazing sunlight. A flame burned her. Her erosive energy dissolved as soon as it gathered. After many years of staying here, the God Lord had recovered his full energy. 10,000 years ago, he had been at the peak of immortal realm already. Because of dark energy, he was stuck at the threshold to the territory ancestor realm. The reason why he couldn't learn dark energy was his fear or what Bloodthirsty had told him, or even the power of Desolate. No one could deny the God Lord's strength and talent. He had led the God clan for 10,000 years, making the clan the overlord of desolate territory. His deeds and spirit were of an unrivaled expert. In that vast desolate territory, he was just behind Bloodthirsty. This hag was just a member of the devouring clan. Even if she understood dark energy, she wasn't an extraordinary demon like Bloodthirsty. It wasn't a surprise that she could be suppressed or killed. Chapter 1429. Must vie for it. Chapter 1429. Must vie for it. More shadows came like howling tornadoes from afar. What? The warriors who had just come couldn't help but shout. Looking at the scene, they all wore strange faces. Who are these two? They aren't from the 7 great clans or are hotshots of the Sea of Annihilation. So strange. Farlo was surprised as she watched the others. Behind her was Telika and Ling Mei's team from mysterious Sky Clan. They had followed Gonfu and Batum here. As soon as they arrived, they found Batum and Gonfu fighting the others. They were bewildered, indeed. Where's Tate's team? Ling Mei's bright eyes raked around, her face gradually stern. She smelled blood, so she turned to look. On the ground where Gonfu was hovering, there was a puddle of blood that hadn't dried yet. Ling Mei was scared. She looked at Gonfu and she knew what had happened. Guys, stay away from here. Don't come close, she reminded her warriors. Power Upanishad Symbol Tower. Absolute beginning original symbol. Right at this moment, Yerberg of the ancient monster clan emerged. He was so excited when he saw the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower and he screamed. His scream was like bellowing thunder in people's heads. Farlo, Telika, and Ling Mei got their eyes off of Batum and Gonfu. They opened their eyes wider and looked at the ancient tower. As they were outstanding warriors of the 7 great clan, they had extraordinary knowledge. Even though they had never seen any drawing of the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower, they had heard about it. Realizing that the massive tower in front of them was the Power Upanishad Symbol Tower, they were awestruck. Their eyes became hot as the flame of greed was burning in them. They scanned the tower and didn't even blink. What's that? Ling Mei looked at the soul altar hovering atop the tower and couldn't help but yell, is he taking in the absolute beginning original symbol? Ling Mei's line of sight fell on Meiji. Meiji looked uneasy and astringent. Argrg. Suddenly, Gonfu faced the sky and howled. Her body was sweating like melting ice under a dazzling sunlight. Her incipient extent arose containing countless wisps of poisonous gas. Under the gas were so many ponds and swamps in different colors. They were all frightening indeed. At this moment, Gonfu's incipient extent was covered in immense light. The gas in her world evaporated. The colored swamps with different colors diluted little by little under that light. Gradually, they became clear water ponds. It meant that Gonfu's erosive energy was drifting away fast. The God Lord wore an indifferent countenance. The light emitted from his body was like an immense sky. It looked like he was sinking in the middle of the great, brilliant halos. The 5 massive planets of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were like diamonds revolving and relaying intimidating pressure. Gonfu couldn't stand it. She didn't know that God Lord Brian had fought against the bloodthirsty force for 10,000 years. He understood the power Upanishads of the bloodthirsty force as the back of his hand. After he got the power from Desolate, his light power Upanishad was also the nemesis of the bloodthirsty force. Of course, it had the same fatal effects on corrosion power Upanishad. Batum wasn't in a good condition, either. This ugly old man cultivated storm power Upanishad. Blocks of wildly swirling blasts of wind moved around and merged with each other to create a massive tornado, which was enough to destroy any incipient God Realm expert. Getting inside Batum's stormy field, the immortal realm expert's soul altar could break from the storm. Inside the stormy field, Ming Hao's mind flickered, and he had turned into millions of souls. Each of the soul clones was like an eternal flame with a soul-binding power. They acted like chains and coiled around the ugly old man. Batum's stormy field became sluggish and it ceased at the end. He roared brutally and attacked each of Ming Hao's soul clones. Ming Hao ridiculed and sneered, dashing toward him from every direction. He was like a flooding sea that attacked the ugly old man's soul in every direction. Batum had experience fighting against the experts of the Devouring Clan, especially the ones cultivating soul control power Upanishad. However, Ming Hao's power was greater than his knowledge and experience. While fighting, Ming Hao's souls could flash and disappear. They seemed to be able to move through space slits to avoid the stormy slaughter. Batum didn't know that besides the soul power Upanishad of the Imperial Dark Tribe, Ming Hao had also cultivated the space power Upanishad altogether. When he joined Bloodthirsty's force, he had begun to cultivate soul control power Upanishad. Not many people knew that the experiences in his 2 previous phases of life had affected Ming Hao greatly. He had cultivated the soul control power Upanishad to a new height. His understanding of this power was even more profound and thorough than Bloodthirsty that year. Of course, his attainment had surpassed the warriors cultivating soul control power Upanishad in the Devouring clan. Batum understood dark energy, but his level wasn't more profound than Shuryan's. Before he could break through to Territory Ancestor Realm, he couldn't use dark energy's ability. His quality couldn't change a bit. Thus, he was in a disadvantageous situation too. Atop the power Upanishad symbol tower, Shuryan's soul altar was pressing down like a falling sky. His soul consciousness was affecting the tower. Those absolute beginning symbols were merging upward. And now, they were around 10 more levels to the top. Their speed gradually slowed down. Batum and Gonfu were suppressed by the God Lord and Ming Hao. Farlo, Yerbo, and Ling Mei had arrived later, and they pulled themselves together when they saw that Batum and Gonfu couldn't defeat the others. They watched the situation and waited for a chance to take action or improvise. Yerberg was sneaky. He quietly moved behind a pile of rocks. Hiding by the pile of rocks, he sneered and took out an eyeball when no one noticed him. That eyeball was a secret soul treasure that was used to communicate. Yerberg held the treasure with both hands and urged his soul consciousness. He was about to contact the real experts of his clan. Swoosh! A bat-like creature suddenly appeared in front of Yerberg and grinned. Right when Yerberg was about to cast his technique, the alien rose a finger. Crack! Crack! The eyeball cracked and shattered. The soul consciousness inside perished. An energy attack ran directly into Yerberg's brain. Yerberg's eyes bled as he shrieked and screeched. He jumped like a monster whose tail was cut off. He became wild instantly. Kid, stay at your lot. Don't think about spreading the information. Your soul altar is hurt. Don't act recklessly, said Ming Hong. He had always monitored the area. When he found Yerberg about to send his message, he didn't attack immediately. He had waited until Yerberg gathered his soul consciousness and then attacked. Yerberg couldn't defend in such a condition. His soul got hurt badly and instantly. Ming Hong had been with Sing for many years. He was an old fox himself. After he had swallowed Sing's soul, he got Sing's dark mind too. When he wanted to attack, it would be really hard to predict and prevent it. Yerberg screeched, his eyes bleeding terribly. He had almost lost his vision. He could only see a vague feature floating in front of him. He calmed down quickly, stopped screaming, and sat down at his lot. Rocks in different shapes were summoned, and they covered his entire body. Each of those rocks contained a wisp of terrifying energy, which was also linked together. Once one of them was hit or triggered, the entire pile of rocks would blast altogether. Ming Hong had verbally stimulated him to make him snap back or counterattack. He didn't expect this kid to calm down that quickly. Yerberg had let go of his attack and defense, taking out his life treasure. Gazing at the rocks for a while, Ming Hong didn't dare to break them. He could only let him go and leave. Yerberg's eyes were bleeding like 2 streams. He looked so terrible that Farlo, Telika, and Ling Mei got freaked out. They didn't dare to do anything. They pulled themselves together and watched the power Upanishad symbol tower. Shuryan's co-soul and host soul were like angels watching the world from heaven. They were hovering above the incipient extent to observe the marvels underneath. Gradually, the large wave of absolute beginning symbols was closer to the top. The more symbols they had merged, the more dazzling they became. Those words were radiant with 7 colored halos, which were so magnificent to watch. Waves of vitality surged and sent energy to those symbols. The world under the light curtain also became vigorous. Everybody observed and found a large amount of unknown grass growing from the cracks of the ruins. Those tufts of grass were lushly green and strong. Life power Upanishad! Ling Mei yelled. The others had also recognized that it was a life absolute beginning original symbol that could fuse with the power Upanishad of a warrior cultivating the matched Upanishad. As Audrey saw that the progress had come to a critical point, she looked stern. She released other brutal souls that she got from Sing and watched Farlo, Telika, Yerberg, and Lingmei. She ordered her brutal souls discreetly. If the others had the guts to move, Audrey's brutal souls would kill them. Farlo and Telika understood that if they missed this chance, the absolute beginning original symbol would belong to Shuryen forever as soon as it reached his brain. They were vying in their minds to calculate while watching Batum and Gonfu. They knew that Batum and Gonfu would risk their lives at this last moment. They would do anything to vie for the absolute beginning original symbol. They were waiting for the two strongest experts to trouble the God Lord and Minghao, which would give them a good chance. For the absolute beginning original symbol. For the power Upanishad symbol tower. Risk our lives. Yerberg looked horrible with his bleeding eyes. He opened his eyes and dashed toward the power Upanishad symbol tower. Batum and Gonfu hissed and roared like animals facing death. Batum pounded his fist on his glabella. A terrifying storm arose with millions of twisted blasts of wind that could tear any creature. The storm was like a demon's mouth, trying to swallow Minghao's soul clones. Gonfu hissed darkly and spurted viscous blood. Her blood was green with unrivaled, corrosive poison. As soon as she did that, the domineering light from the God Lord dissolved. The God Lord discolored in fright. This is getting more interesting. Meiji, hissed Lingmei, her face stern. Which side do you support? Meiji faced the sky and struggled hard in her mind. She couldn't choose any side. Chapter 1430, Among What Is True and What Is False. Chapter 1430, Among What Is True and What Is False. Gonfu's body shriveled as if she had become a midget. Her spirit, soul, and chi were drifting away. She spurted blood with a pure, powerful erosive energy that unexpectedly reached a terrifying level. The God Lord was stern and insecure because he knew Gonfu was paying with her blood and life to carry out some dark and evil technique. This technique had used an enormous amount of her energy, and it could hurt her soul altogether. However, the generated corrosive energy was much more powerful than before. This erosive energy had a strange tint that was very familiar to the God Lord. It was dark energy. Sizzle. Sizzle. The bloodstream that was Gonfu's lifeblood sprayed on the bright metal star. The halo of the metal star was shadowed instantly. It was shrinking and eroding at a speed that naked eyes could see. The God Lord's handsome face paled. The light in his eyes dimmed as he snorted. Greed can urge your potentials, but it can also take your life away. It seems like you don't even need your life just for the power Upanishad symbol tower. You don't know. Outsiders like you will never know. Gonfu smiled bitterly. With this power Upanishad symbol tower, I will find your desolate territory and use billions of lives there to create a corrosion absolute beginning original symbol. I will grasp the ultimate power Upanishad and become the overlord of corrosion power Upanishad. You will see that day. I'm telling you now. Your evil homeland will be destroyed. Our devouring clan will destroy it. Gonfu was still shrinking. She was dried up as if she had taken all of her blood out. She was using a secret technique similar to the rampage. However, it wasn't as strong as Shuryen's rampage. Shuryen's rampage used negative energy from his acupuncture points, so it wouldn't hurt his body. Gonfu's evil technique used her blood to boost the corrosion power Upanishad to the utmost. However, she had to bear a terrible consequence. Her body would rot, and she would have to abandon it in the end. However, Gonfu thought that the power Upanishad symbol tower was much more precious than her body. To get the tower, she didn't regret to pay any price. Sizzle. Sizzle. The green blood became a small pond, which was deeply green. Gonfu's dried, withered body hovered above the green pond while she was still gushing out blood and aimed at the God Lord. As soon as Brian's light touched the small, green pond, it got polluted. Slowly, his light lost its purity. It gradually lost the pure holy power. The God Lord pulled a loathing face. Seeing the green pond get out of his restraint, he immediately increased more layers of light. However, his light couldn't stop it anymore. The green pond forcefully dissolved his holy light. Gonfu seized the chance and stormed out. Almost at the same time, Yerberg, Telika, and Farlow soared up and aimed at Shuryen. Telika grinned. 7 crystal, lightning dragons flew out of his eyes. The dragons had armor-like scales. In the grumbling thunder, they stormed towards Shuryen's soul altar. Rumble! 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 So many long lightning dragons barged into Shuryen's sea of consciousness. Shuryen's sea of consciousness seethed. The impact sent starlight dots everywhere. The other observed and found Shuryen's co-soul and host's soul dim out as if they were about to vanish. Telika laughed wildly. No one is guarding you. While you take in the absolute beginning original symbol, it's when you're weakest. Let me see how you can survive. Farlow didn't show mercy. Her eyes shimmered with a strange light. So many light balls like hedgehogs rolled toward Shuryen's sea of consciousness. Those light balls exploded as soon as they fell and shot countless spikes, cutting and slashing the sea of consciousness. Shuryen's co-soul and host's soul were like flickering candles in the wind. They were vague as if they would extinguish in any minute. His sea of consciousness was attacked, which affected the progress of taking in the absolute beginning original symbol. The absolute beginning symbols were now only 3 levels away from the top. There were dozens of symbols left to merge. At this moment, those remaining symbols were still swimming around. However, they didn't continue to merge with each other. Madam, what should we do? One of the mysterious Sky Clan warriors looked at Ling Mei next to him. Elder Tu Shurchi said that we have to try our best to create a good relationship with this one and recruit him to our mysterious Sky Clan. Ling Mei didn't take action, her bright eyes cold. She furrowed her brows and said, he used to add that if we have to go against him, we must try our best to kill him. We shouldn't leave any possible danger. The members of the mysterious Sky Clan were shaken and astounded. Ling Mei took a deep breath and looked at Meiji, who was still struggling to make a decision. He has obviously denied us. He won't become our non-native officer. At most, we just have a little relationship. Anyway, this relationship is nothing compared to the power Upanishad symbol tower. Pausing for a while, Ling Mei made up her mind. We shouldn't give up the power Upanishad symbol tower. It's easy to choose now. Do your best. Even if you have to destroy yourself, you have to vie for the power Upanishad symbol tower for your fellows. She turned to a warrior at first sky of immortal realm, the lowest realm here. You're at the lowest realm. For our fellows and the clan's welfare, you know what to do, right? That mysterious Sky Clan warrior didn't hesitate. He was like an extremely religious warrior, roaring and crying as he attacked Shuryen's sea of consciousness. While in midair, his body started to burn. His soul altar emerged. It was a sea of fire. He had cultivated fire power Upanishad. Today, his soul altar was burning, which meant he was burning his life to cast a fatal attack. If his soul altar exploded inside Shuryen's sea of consciousness, Shuryen would have no way to duck. His soul altar would shatter altogether. It was death. How dare you? However, at this moment, Meiji screamed, ice swords growing on her body. In just a blink of an eye, several thousand ice swords flew out and aimed at that man. After Meiji launched this defense, she was a little bewildered as she couldn't believe that she had done that. She couldn't believe that she would help Shuryen and save him. Seeing the other want to destroy Shuryen, she was so fluttered and panicked. She didn't think, and all of her concerns seemed to go away when she shot her ice swords. I know I can't trust you, Ling Mei said faintly and raised her hand. Layers of water were conjured, and they shielded against so many ice swords. Ling Mei cultivated water power Upanishad. Water and ice shared the same origin, but they were different in appearance. She and Meiji had been competing for years. Their powers were always equal. But today, Ling Mei had gained the upper hand. Water restriction. Ling Mei screamed. Those ice swords were covered in water and couldn't move further. Meiji sent her soul energy with swords, so when they were trapped, her body started shivering and she started spurting dark blood. She had been hurt and she hadn't recovered yet. Today, she couldn't control it after she got hit. Meiji's charming face paled. Her watery eyes turned dusky on her grimaced face. Meiji, you can't beat me. Ling Mei wore a cold face. She didn't attack more. When you attacked Shiryan and didn't take the wisp of absolute beginning creature soul, I know something was wrong. I don't know what you've experienced, but I know your heart is touched. Otherwise, you wouldn't have failed. Women of your phantom clan rarely fall in love, but once you do, you act like a moth attracted to a fire. I understand you guys, so I've always paid attention. You didn't fail me. Meiji's face grimaced more. She gritted her teeth and didn't have a bit of strength to explain herself. She lifted her head to look at the sky. She found that the sacrificial warrior of the mysterious Sky Clan had passed Farlo and Telika. As the others saw that the man wanted to stop Shiryan from taking in the absolute beginning original symbol with his death, they happily gave him way. Meiji felt empty all of a sudden. She thought something that belonged to her was about to shatter. She blankly looked at the sky, her eyes absent-minded. If you want to die, go die. All of a sudden, the girl who was just a junior here pitched her clear voice. It was Audrey who just spoke. She was the only incipient God Realm warrior in this place. She looked at the sky and spoke nonchalantly and naturally. A strange creature that was like a bat appeared, swelling. Quickly, it became a terrifying brutal soul, opening its big mouth to swallow all the brutal souls. Its ethereal body had become real. He grew more than 100 meters tall and grinned fiendishly. His sharp claw was like an iron anchor that snatched and grabbed the flaming chunk that wanted to hit Shiryan with his tragic death. Die! Minghong laughed evilly in the void. Boom! 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 The flaming object exploded and sent fires and sparks everywhere together with blood, pieces of flesh, and internal organs. A charred, roasted piece of intestine fell on Telika's neck like a black necklace. He felt disgusting and yelled. Just a little incipient God Realm. Even if you have Sing's brutal souls, what else can you do with your feeble body? Lingmei frowned. As soon as this woman decided to stop Shiryan from taking in the absolute beginning original symbol, she seemed to become a totally different person. She was calm and naturally giving her commands. She pointed at Audrey and spoke indifferently. Kill her. Without brutal souls to protect her, she's as weak as a sheet of paper. A mysterious Sky Clan man wearing black armor acted as he was ordered. He was holding a jagged saber and filling himself with a brutal, deadly aura. Minghong hovered in the void and gathered the other brutal souls to be more frightening. He had swallowed all the brutal souls, leaving Audrey unguarded. Seeing Ling Mei order to kill Audrey, Minghong didn't hesitate and landed from the sky to protect her. Telika, Farlo, Yerberg. What are you waiting for? Ling Mei shouted. Telika grinned. Ling Mei, you're always excellent with extraordinary deeds. You're one level stronger than Meiji, indeed. A member of the Phantom Clan who has fallen in love can't compare to you. He laughed and gathered lightning dragons, smashing Shiryan's Sea of Consciousness one more time. Shiryan's Sea of Consciousness exploded and created more high waves. His co-soul and host soul looked extremely feeble. The absolute beginning symbols had stopped merging and started slowly dividing. The symbols that had merged with each other seemed to resume their previous condition. They were about to fall back to their previous below levels. Ling Mei looked indifferent even though Telika had just complimented her. She didn't even blink as she looked at the sky and the top of the massive tower where Shiryan's soul was hovering. All of a sudden, she found something. Her calm face had a gleam of deep fear. No! He isn't hurt. He has the lost devouring power Upanishad of the Devouring Clan. Your attacks are ineffective to his Sea of Consciousness. Devouring power Upanishad. The supreme power Upanishad of my clan. Gon Fu stopped by Minghao, screaming and shouting as if she was mentally ill or saw ghosts in daylight. Chapter 1431. You're still unskilled. Chapter 1431. You're still unskilled. Ling Mei and Gon Fu were screaming and drawing people's attention who was watching Shiryan. Anyway, they actually had paid attention to the relationship between Shiryan and the absolute beginning original symbol, the power Upanishad symbol tower previously. And now, after their screaming, they couldn't help but lift their heads to look at Shiryan's Sea of Consciousness and the tier of power Upanishad. Of course, they saw a jet black hole. Currently, that black hole was like a black vortex that spun strangely. It looked indescribably evil indeed. People now understood. They all grimaced. They recognized that Ling Mei was correct. They knew the reason why those absolute beginning symbols suddenly stopped merging and seemed to divide. It wasn't because Shi Yan got hit, which discontinued his flow of energy. It was because Shi Yan wasn't using life power Upanishad at this moment. The dark, revolving cave told them that Shi Yan was using his devouring power Upanishad. It was the most terrifying and malicious power Upanishad that has been lost for so many years. It was famous for its devouring ability. It could swallow all kinds of energy and make other races loathe it to the bones. When they recognized that strange commotion, as to prove Ling Mei's assumption, Shi Yan's flickering co-soul and host soul condensed and became clear. The host soul and the co-soul still looked indifferent as if nothing had happened to them. Ling Mei was correct. Shi Yan wasn't hurt at all. When Telika attacked him, Shi Yan had switched his power Upanishad. He had to pause the fusing process of the life power Upanishad to use the marvelous ability of the devouring power Upanishad. His sea of consciousness had dark energy, so it wasn't just an ordinary sea of consciousness. It had a defensive power created by the powerful dark energy. As he had urged the devouring power Upanishad, his sea of consciousness became like a massive vortex. When Telika's attack came, his sea seethed, which appeared terrifying. However, it actually didn't affect him a bit. While his sea of consciousness surged, the exploding lightning energy slowly subsided. The black hole in his sea of consciousness had taken it all. With space power Upanishad, he had created illusions to cover his actions. Only Brian and Ming Hao could see his sneaky moves. They knew that he wasn't hurt. That's why Brian didn't take action. He even had a faint smile. When Gongfu burst out her deadly power, he didn't stop her. As he didn't even move, Ming Hao could only try his best to interfere with her. Millions of his clones divided and sent a part of them to stop Gongfu, entangling with her for a while. Shi Yan couldn't estimate Ling Mei's deed. Although the mysterious Sky Clan seemed to want to establish an alliance with him, they decided to throw everything away for the power Upanishad symbol tower at this critical moment. They wanted to take him down at any cost. Ling Mei's cold, calm, and precise orders had affected him greatly. Shi Yan was shaken and insecure when Ling Mei could see what he was hiding. She knew that he had mastered devouring power Upanishad and wasn't hurt. Seize 15 minutes for me. Or else, don't think about getting out of this place. Shi Yan's soul consciousness poured like a stream from the sky and fell on Brian the God Lord. Brian was standing and watching Ming Hao dealing with two opponents at the same time and gradually falling into the lower hand. He had planned to see Ming Hao consume his energy. However, when he heard Shi Yan's voice, he snorted and replied, "You guys of the bloodthirsty force are so cunning. Don't worry. I will take action when I should. But don't dream about me sacrificing my life for you. Ming Hao should be the one who does that for you. If he can't, of course, I will join him. You just enjoy it over there." Devouring power Upanishad. It's the devouring power Upanishad. Gongfu screamed ear-piercingly, her body shaking hysterically. She was sitting on the green blood pond. At this moment, she had shrunk her body thrice. Now, she was just around 1 meter tall. She had no color on her mummy-like body, except for her overjoyed eyes. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The green blood underneath her emitted a thick green mist. The rotten, corrosive energy from that green mist was so thick that it could rot people's internal organs when they inhaled. Ming Hao's soul clones were afraid of the mist. When green mist expanded, his soul clones retreated. Telika, attack his twin souls. Once his souls get damaged, even if he has more tricks, he will perish quickly. Ling Mei pulled herself together fast. When they had to capture each fraction of time, she had go the right direction in just a blink of an eye, ordering people to attack Shi Yan's souls. Telika, Farlow, and Yerberg weren't idiots. Hearing her, they reacted and ignored the seething sea of consciousness to attack Shi Yan's two souls above. Up! Audrey hissed resolutely. A gray soul lotus throne emerged and brought Audrey upward. That lotus throne was created by dozens of thousands of wailing ghosts and departed souls. Fearsome faces appeared by the edge of the lotus, shrieking and showing fangs. Minghao was right in front of the lotus throne. He looked like a massive skull lying underneath Audrey. He opened his mouth and spurt dark smoke to prevent a muscular man from the mysterious Sky Clan 100 meters away. Black guards. Stop her. Lingmei hovered and shouted coldly. All the members of the mysterious Sky Clan accompanied her this time left Shuryen and turned around. Audrey was their new target. Instantly, the cold sabers as big as a rainbow and a silver mountain range snatched over Audrey. Break! Audrey hissed and made a magical hand seal. A cluster of light emerged from her palms. So many souls gathered inside the cluster of light and created something like a throbbing black heart. It then forcefully hit the saber and the silver mountain range from the black guards. At the same time, Meiji, the only person still staying on the ground, had finally taken action. Her entire body became frozen. She was now an ice warrior with ice muscles. While her eyes were blinking, the 100-meter-long icicles were like massive lances that shot out and stabbed towards Ling Mei in the middle of the air. A trickle of blood oozed down the corner of her mouth. She looked even paler. Apparently, this attack had worsened her wounds. Every time an ice lance jutted out of her body, her perfect body shivered as if a big hammer pounded on her chest. After many big lances were shot, her soft body was shaking unceasingly. She limped and couldn't even stand upright. Lingmei sighed. Why would you do that? Is he worth you risking your life? I can't understand phantom women. Why do you always puzzle people? Why do you always do stupid things? Then, her jade-like hand rose. Water moves the sky. A clear drop of water like a tear appeared. It sucked the water and then swelled into a clear lake. The lake reflected Ling Mei's beautiful face and then began to ripple. Each ripple from that lake could shatter one ice lance. Meiji hugged her ample chest. Her face didn't have any color. She slumped and one of her knees touched the ground as she was trying to endure the backfire. Her heart was chilled as vitality drained away from her. Stay here. So many voices hissed from everywhere. Minghao's clones were ballooning like ghosts. Some of them parted to stop Telika and the others. Rot. All of them should rot. Ganfu screamed like a brutal ghost. The green blood pond suddenly divided into pieces as if it was a green fabric sheet that got torn. Rotting acid splashed on Minghao's clones, which were circling. Minghao's clones dissolved as if boiling water had poured on them. This attack had hurt Minghao. He couldn't hold his anger. Each of his clones thundered. Brian, you want to watch until when? As the soul-controlled chief, it's natural that you die to protect your master. I don't need to die for you too, eh? The God Lord mocked, but he still stepped forward and raised one hand to grab Batum. 5 sharp jets of light emerged with the power of 5 elements. Together, they were like an angel's hand tearing Batum's stormy field. Batum was really afraid of the God Lord. Seeing him attack, although he thought that the light power wasn't really powerful and was strange somehow, Batum had pulled himself together to wait for the attack. He didn't dare to underestimate him. It was because he had seen the God Lord fight against Ganfu and force her helter-skelter. He knew the other had supernatural abilities. Batum's vigilance made Minghao relax. Lingmei, how dare you? Meiji was still on the ground and roaring while still bleeding. Lingmei wore an indifferently face. She had seized the chance when everything was the most chaotic to dash Shuryen's body forward. She hovered low and waited for the best chance to kill Shuryen's body. It was her real purpose. She had been patient enough. She had watched Brian take action, suppress Meiji, and direct Telika to attack others, which had lured Audrey away from Shuryen's body. Finally, she earned the chance to create a rapid water saber that was aimed to kill Shuryen in one moment. Meiji screamed even though she was vomiting blood. Audrey's face paled. She also started bleeding. She was scared out of her wits when this happened all of a sudden. Only Minghao didn't look at this area. He was still entangled with Ganfu. He had even let his souls melt to drain Ganfu's lifeblood. At this moment, Shuryen had put his life in the other's protection. He had urged the life power Upanishad one more time. The life ball glowed with a mesmerizing halo and continuously released the immense life energy to attract the absolute beginning original symbol. The absolute beginning original symbol that had paused now resumed. Moreover, its speed got faster so that it wasn't even going to take even 15 minutes. Of course, if the body was destroyed, the soul was going to hurt badly. Even if he had the absolute beginning original symbol and his soul altar couldn't return to the body shortly, the others could still strike him to death. Don't blame me. Blame yourself for having so many marvelous powers. You don't want to join our mysterious Sky Clan. Blame the power Upanishad symbol tower. It's too important. It's more important than a future territory ancestor realm expert. Thus, I have to kill you. I can't give you more room and time to grow. Lingmei was discreetly regretful, but her murderous intent wasn't shaken. The water saber didn't halt. That little girl is resolutely evil. However, she's a little unskilled. If we let you get what you want, those who have lived dozens of thousands of years like us have lived our lives for nothing. Right before Ling Mei slashed her saber, the God Lord's cold voice suddenly arose. It was strange because the God Lord was fighting against Batum up there in the sky above their heads. I'm sorry. Your tricks are old. We're sick of using them 10,000 years ago. The God Lord tightened his fist. It was like he had pulled all the lights of the immensely vast star into his punch, and his punch now contained energy that accumulated from many suns, grumblingly blowing towards the water saber. Ling Mei unconsciously lifted her head to look at the sky. She was dumbstruck when she found the God Lord still fighting with Batum up there. Shortly after, the God Lord turned into one of Minghao's clones. She was chilled as she recognized that the God Lord had never left. It was a trap set for her. The conversation between the God Lord and Minghao was just a trick to fool people that used Minghao's clones. Chapter 1432, Collect. Chapter 1432, Collect. Ling Mei understood it now. However, it was too bad as it was too late. Boom. Billions of light beams bloomed like the most beautiful firework performance in front of Ling Mei's eyes. A rainbow band shot over like a sharp ribbon, but it was actually a life-taking lance that stabbed the rapid water saber. The water saber vanished immediately. Ling Mei was hit hard. She was held still before the dazzling light covered her entirely. Madam! Madam! Madam Ling Mei! The black-armored guards of the mysterious Sky Clan shrieked. They quit attacking Audrey, turning around and plunging. But it was too late. It will be much better if you know your lot, right? For my whole life, I hated women who were too smart. I loathe women who always want to stir up a storm, especially the beautiful ones, said the God Lord. The 5 bright stars twirled in the sky full of light. They were like lightning striking the souls that lingered in the mundane world. All pounded on Ling Mei. Ling Mei's body had so many cracks and cut, making her bleed. Most of her wounds were terrifyingly deep to the bones. Thud! Her body fell on the ground and rolled to the rock pile. Her blood dyed the rocks while her bright, witty eyes dimmed out. Swoosh! 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 The black-armored guards of the mysterious Sky Clan landed by her, protecting her in case the God Lord wanted to attack more furiously. The God Lord didn't chase after her. He clasped his hand behind his back and wore a haughty, cold face. If Shuryen wants to kill you, he will kill you. I won't do his chores for him. If I kill you for him, he won't appreciate me. Well, I'm his enemy anyway. He lifted his head to look at Batum, sneering and yelling. Get down here. The 5 jets of light shot from his fingertips, crossing the sky and covering Batum. The God Lord pulled. Batum was shaken immediately. His blasting storm tore and exploded. Batum's round body fell as he couldn't endure that. The mysterious Sky Clan guards waited and protected Ling Mei. They didn't dare to move and attack the God Lord. Meiji wasn't far from them, her charming face as pale as white paper. She stopped bleeding and still had some energy. However, her internal wounds were serious. The reluctant feeling she had when her life was draining away scared her and made her restless. Audrey relaxed when she saw the God Lord take action. He had attacked Ling Mei. Standing by Shuryen, he pulled Batum down. Audrey knew that this battle would soon come to an end. I won't let you get it. You damn pagans. Gone Fu of the Devouring Clan was aging fast, her vitality draining rapidly. The blood pond underneath bubbled and sizzled. Her aura surged grumblingly like a burning flame. Each clone of Ming Hao paled in fright. Seeing Gone Fu want to destroy everybody altogether, Ming Hao hesitated for a few seconds. Then, he gathered all of his clones. Ming Hao now had only one clone. He rose his hand and touched the void. A small world emerged that turned complicated. He stopped Teleka, Farlow, and Yerbo in that world and prevented them from making other moves. He backed off and said, I don't want to die with you. If you want, you can die alone. You're scared. I know you're scared. Gone Fu screamed crazily and glided through Ming Hao to reach Shiryan. Uncle! Audrey screamed hoarsely. Ming Hao was indifferent as if he didn't hear her calling. He didn't help Shiryan stop Gone Fu's last attack. The God Lord looked at the sky and slashed. The world of light bloomed. Batum bounced upside down like a rubber ball. He sneered and didn't think much about Gone Fu's strike. Gone Fu brought her lifeblood that had boosted her corrosion power Upanishad and aimed at Shiryan's two souls. Ming Hao and the God Lord just watched. They didn't interfere, and they looked somehow joking. Ling Mei recovered slightly. Because Gone Fu had escaped the siege, she had risen the other's spirits. However, seeing Ming Hao's and the God Lord's faces, she felt so chilled. She knew that it wouldn't be nice at the end. The absolute beginning symbols on the Power Upanishad symbol tower had reached the last level. So many symbols were now congregating at the last symbol. After that, the absolute beginning original symbol was going to form. Gone Fu used her corrosion power Upanishad to try to destroy everything with her. The God Lord had stepped aside and Ming Hao had backed off. Eventually, she reached Shiryan's soul altar and tried to attack his two souls. Shiryan's host soul gave a cunning, strange face as it didn't duck. The jet black hole like a bottomless abyss flew out of the tier of power Upanishads and headed to Gone Fu. The poisonous green water was made of her lifeblood, and the erosive energy poured into the black hole. Shiryan's souls were intact. The black hole was revolving like a greedy mouth that would never be satisfied. Gone Fu was stunned. Seconds later, her shriveled body cracked like a dry log of wood. Her body made crack noises and shattered. Her soul altar shook. As her host's soul could feel the desperate fear, she wanted to run away as fast as possible. The hovering black hole sucked her soul altar while pieces of her shattering body fell like chips of wood. There was no blood left. It seems that the fellows of the Devouring Clan don't know the real power of the Devouring Power Upanishad. They don't know that the Devouring Power Upanishad is the nemesis of the 8 great, evil power Upanishads. It looks like they don't know a thing about this power. It seems like they've lost it for a really long time. Ming Hao looked dark and harsh as he ridiculed them. Well, she thought she was great with her corrosion power Upanishad. She didn't know that the rising tide attacks of the 8 power Upanishads could be easily dissolved. It's a waste that she will be killed at the peak of a mortal realm. The God Lord continued, clearly, the warriors from the sea domain of Nihility don't have a profound knowledge of the devouring power Upanishad. The warriors with the 8 great, evil power Upanishads dare to die together with the warrior who has the devouring power Upanishad. They're ignorant, anyway. In fact, those warriors of the Devouring Clan didn't understand the full extent of the devouring power Upanishad. It was because they had lost the said power for a long time. It had been so long that they had forgotten that the devouring power Upanishad was the root of the Devouring Clan. It was the most powerful power Upanishad that only the chief of the clan could cultivate. Today, Gone Fu's death was going to remind the Devouring Clan and the creatures in the sea domain of Nihility that the devouring power Upanishad was the true nemesis of the 8 evil power Upanishads. Gone Fu was dead. Her soul was swallowed. Batum collapsed. The God Lord and Ming Hao's deeds had shut him down. I give up, Batum shouted and backed off, trying his best to run away. The God Lord didn't want to look at him. He just let the ugly old man run away, his eyes filled with disgust. Ming Hao didn't stop him either. While his mind flickered, his power Upanishad changed. His soul body now had countless fine spacelets. Telika, Yerberg, and Farlow looked at those fine cracks and felt insecure. Then, their bodies had so many cracks. Their blood splashed and their bones broke. Space Power Upanishad. An expert cultivating space power Upanishad at third sky of immortal realm. Who is this monster? Telika, Yerberg, and Farlow screamed. They didn't dare to linger and ran away as Batum had just done. The blackguards of the mysterious Sky Clan were awakened when they saw Batum run away. They supported Ling Mei and left instantly. Both the God Lord and Ming Hao didn't stop them. They looked at those people running away, their faces calm and natural. "Uncle, why didn't you stop them? Why did you let them escape?" asked Audrey. Underneath, Meiji's breathing was weakening. She was leaning against a rock. Blood oozed from the corner of her mouth to her white neck. Her eyes gradually lost focus. She blankly looked at the sky. Escape? Ming Hao shook his head. They can't. Brian and I have been trapped here for dozens of years. We've tried all the methods, but we haven't gotten out of this place yet. How could they leave easily? It's easy to get in, but it's not simple to get out. Then why didn't you kill them? You're not afraid of them spreading information. Audrey was surprised. No one could send messages out of here. Otherwise, when that kid sent a message, we would have taken action. This area is a block space. I'm at third sky of immortal realm cultivating space power Upanishad, but I couldn't tear a small space slit. What can they do? Ming Hao felt funny. So I just did something unnecessary? Snorted Audrey. No. Didn't you seize the chance to assault the one who believes she's infallible? Smiled Ming Hao. Audrey pulled a long face. The little girl down there. How is she related to Shiryen? Her condition isn't right. Her vitality is draining. She came here with wounds. Then, she got hurt further. Her root is shaken. If we don't do anything, it will be fatal, Ming Hao observed Meiji and frowned. I don't know their relationship, Audrey shook her head. He's almost done, the God Lord intervened. He soared up into the sky, hovering by Ming Hao and Audrey. He didn't bat an eye at Meiji. In his mind, Meiji wasn't important. Her life didn't matter to him. Ming Hao turned to Shiryen with his bright and sharp eyes. He didn't look at Meiji anymore. Under Shiryen's sea of consciousness, all the absolute beginning symbols on the Power Upanishad symbol tower had merged into one absolute beginning original symbol. That absolute beginning original symbol had bright seven-colored halos. It was like the sun at dawn slowly rising to the top of the tower. Eventually, it merged into Shiryen's life crystal ball. Inside the life ball, the absolute beginning original symbol settled and released the enormous vitality. At this moment, the life energy magnetic field on Shiryen's body was so abundant that Ming Hao and God Lord had to envy him. They were stunned too. After the absolute beginning original symbol had left the Power Upanishad symbol tower, the imposing, mountain-like tower began to shrink. The God Lord's eyes rolled as he spoke. All of a sudden, your bloodthirsty force got the benefit from the absolute beginning original symbol. I will take the Power Upanishad symbol tower. You had conserved your power and let me fight against two experts at my realm. You planned to vie for the Power Upanishad symbol tower, didn't you? Ming Hao talked coldly. Ming Hao, you want to take them all? Brian grimaced. While they were quarreling, Shiryen's soul altar suddenly shrank and returned to his body like a projection. Then, Shiryen opened his eyes and raised his hand. The shrinking Power Upanishad symbol tower fell into his hand and disappeared instantly. Chapter 1433, Surging Vitality. Chapter 1433, Surging Vitality. Shiryen had seen the battles clearly. Ling Mei suddenly aimed at him. Telika struck a fatal attack. Meiji acted strangely. Opening his eyes, Shiryen looked a little puzzled. He had stashed the Power Upanishad symbol tower in his incipient extent and frowned. The absolute beginning original symbol had fused with his Power Upanishad, and it had imparted him an enormous amount of information. At this moment, it was like billions of electric currents moving back and forth in his brains. The absolute beginning original symbol had triggered them and weaved through his veins, bones, blood, flesh, and even his soul. He used his soul consciousness to check. He found so many absolute beginning symbols flying out of the life crystal ball like fireflies, entering his body, meridians, internal organs, and brain. The fierce vitality surged in his body and made him a sea of life. The black hole on the tier of power Upanishad still moved. It was digesting Gonfu's energy. Gonfu's corrosive energy, life energy, and soul altar sunk into the black hole, getting filtered and refined. At the same time, there were so many pictures that arose in Shiryan's mind. They were Gonfu's experiences, her memories from birth, and her cultivating progress. The devouring power Upanishad had unexpectedly extracted her memories while digesting her energy. Of course, Shiryan wasn't interested in Gonfu's life experiences. He focused on the life ball where the absolute beginning original symbol was throbbing like a massive heart and releasing surging vitality. Then, he checked more carefully. His soul was shaken hard. An ultimate supernatural ability like a streak of life materialized and became part of his power Upanishad. It was called Surging Vitality. Emerging together with the surging vitality was a warm air current. That warm air current came from the power Upanishad symbol tower inside his incipient extent. At this moment, in Shiryan's brilliant galaxy-like incipient extent, the power Upanishad symbol tower was standing on a barren star. The warm air current shot out from the top of the tower and ran directly to Shiryan's brain. To be exact, it went to Shiryan's co-soul. A slurred memory that had been dusted for billions of years had become disordered sections of mysterious symbols. Shiryan knew what they were. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand them. However, there was a vague connection between him and the power Upanishad symbol tower. The power Upanishad symbol tower had connected to his soul and sent surging memories to a deep place in his soul. His co-soul had merged with Desolate's soul. It had a deep connection with the power Upanishad symbol tower. Those blurry memories seemed to wait for him to activate the absolute beginning creature soul, which was the complete fusion of the heaven flames. That's how he could unlock those wisps of memory. You want to take the power Upanishad symbol tower too? Your greed is bottomless. The God Lord's voice arose, his face twisted in anger. Kid, you want to take all the benefits? Minghao knitted his brows. He was also interested in the power Upanishad symbol tower. He had been ready to combat with the God Lord to vie for it. He didn't expect that Shiryan would take the tower into his incipient extent immediately as he woke up. It gave Minghao a nod in his mind. It's no use if you take the power Upanishad symbol tower. I can use it to break this area. The power Upanishad symbol tower is the key to unlock this place. Because I have the absolute beginning original symbol, only I can control it, said Shiryan casually. Nonsense. The God Lord snorted and didn't buy it. Minghao also frowned, his countenances changing continuously. Shiryan looked at the God Lord and then at Minghao with a grin. It's all right if you don't believe it. Let's try. It's simple. I'll give you the power Upanishad symbol tower, and you guys can see if you can explore it to get us out of here or not. Then, his eyes changed. The power Upanishad symbol tower flew out of his head and floated in front of Minghao and the God Lord. Shiryan was calm, but he was laughing inwardly. At this moment, the power Upanishad symbol tower and his co-soul were connected. No matter how hard the God Lord and Minghao tried, they couldn't find anything from the tower. He didn't mind that the God Lord and Minghao were using their technique and the soul consciousness to connect to the power Upanishad symbol tower. He swayed and landed by Meiji. At this moment, Meiji's face was ashen, her graceful body gory. Her stomach was bleeding terribly. She lay on her side by a rock. Her eyes didn't have focus as her vitality was draining. Usually, when the body was hurt severely, the vitality slowly ran out. Once her vitality was gone, her body wasn't going to have a bit of energy left for her to function. Taking the parents of the little skeleton, for example. Because their vitality was drained, their bone bodies didn't have even a beam of light. If the White Bone clan hadn't cultivated the bone body, they would have decayed. When someone touched them, they would have turned into dust. If he let Meiji's vitality go away, her god power was going to vanish altogether. When she died, it was going to drag her life magnetic field together. The so-called life magnetic field was actually the soul magnetic field and the fountain of the host's soul. When the life magnetic field was gone, it was death. Warriors never came back to life from that state. It would be the same to Shi Yan. When his vitality was drained, he would be dead, completely dead. Why? Shi Yan pondered for a few seconds. He asked in a soft voice, his mind complicated. He didn't consider Meiji a friend who he could trust. There was some knot between them. They had fought furiously, and he used to insult her really badly. He thought that Meiji must have loathed him. When Telika had attacked him and Ling Mei ambushed him, he thought that Meiji would stand on Ling Mei's side. He wouldn't be surprised if it happened. Anyway, the Power Upanishad symbol tower was so important to her Phantom clan. It was a temptation that she couldn't resist. For the tower, Ling Mei had ignored Tu Shiqi's reminder to resolutely kill him. How could Meiji be an exception? He had never imagined that Meiji would help him. Don't ask me. I don't know why either. I just thought that, even if you have to be killed, I should be the one to kill you. I won't let the others kill you. Especially Ling Mei. Meiji said weakly, but she still sounded resolute. There was a flame of anger in her voice, and Shi Yan didn't know who had enraged her. Good, I'll wait for you to kill me, said Shi Yan after a while. So many absolute beginning symbols were like joyful creatures moving out of his hands and entering Meiji's soft body magically. Those absolute beginning symbols rolled and pumped thick vitality to nurture Meiji and raise her vitality. It was a supernatural ability that the absolute beginning original symbol had imprinted in his soul, surging vitality. Magically, Meiji's skin glowed in health. Her pale face regained colors. The wounds in her body healed rapidly. A warm vitality shrouded her and healed all her wounds. Every muscle of hers was filled with energy, which shook her soul magnetic field continuously. Strange light ripples from her bright eyes on her glowing face, her full lips moisturized. She had regained her peerless glamour. Shortly after, Meiji stood upright as she was sinking in a warm sea of life. It felt so comfortable, her furrowed brows relaxed. At this moment, Shi Yan retracted his hand. The absolute beginning symbols in Meiji's body returned to his palm. Those swimming symbols then returned to the absolute beginning original symbol inside the life ball. I won't be thankful. All of the wounds I got are because of you. Meiji's eyes were complicated as she snorted. Shi Yan beamed brightly. I don't need you to be thankful. I hope you continue to hate me. I like women who hate me. Psychopath. Meiji hissed. Can't contact it. That kid must have done something. Suddenly, the God Lord and Minghao dispiritedly screamed. They all looked begrudging when they decided to give up their attempt on connecting to the Power Upanishad symbol tower. So many symbols and light energy outside the Power Upanishad symbol tower were retrieved. They fell like starlight on the God Lord and Minghao. They had tried many secret techniques they knew to try to find the key to connect to the tower. Eventually, they were disappointed. The Power Upanishad symbol tower was like a dead city. It didn't respond at all. They couldn't bring it to their hands or to the fantasy sky ring. Of course, they deemed that Shi Yan had done something cunning. It was true, anyway. I told you, Shi Yan smiled, waving his hand. The flurry in his co-soul rippled like the sea water. It connected to the Power Upanishad symbol tower immediately. The Power Upanishad symbol tower that the God Lord and Minghao couldn't take was now dropping like a hat falling on Shi Yan's head. It disappeared into his nape. Deal with that barrier. Hurry up. We have to escape here as soon as possible. We've been trapped for a long time. I'm worried about the desolate territory, said Minghao. We don't need to hurry. When we open the restriction, some fish will seize the chance to run away, sneered Shi Yan. He turned to the direction where Batum and the others had left, stroking the corner of his mouth, his voice low. I'm like you guys. We don't know how precious the Power Upanishad symbol tower is, but the members of the 7 great clans in the sea domain of Nihility know. If they know we have the Power Upanishad symbol tower, it will be a lot of trouble. He didn't say much. The God Lord and Minghao understood his idea, but it didn't mean they approved it. The God Lord snorted. What if they know? You keep the Power Upanishad symbol tower, not us. If they want, they will trouble you, won't they? Moreover, when you open this area, we will return to desolate territory at our fastest speed. What can they do to us? The members of those 7 great clans have been searching for our desolate territory for a long time. Minghan, lying on Audrey's shoulder, intervened. There is something you don't know. They are so greedy for a wounded absolute beginning creature. Sure, Yan's correct. If they escape alive, for the power Upanishad symbol tower, their seniors won't hesitate to pay any price to get it. They will chase after us. We will be killed before we can reach the territory entrance. What do you mean? Frowned the God Lord. Leave no one alive, Shi Yan said seriously. How about her? The God Lord gave a faint smile, looking at Meiji with the awkward countenance. She's not from our desolate territory. Are you going to kill her too? Do you need a hand? Meiji felt shivers send down her spine. She's my woman. Of course, we won't count her. I will manage my internal matters well. You don't need to care about it, Shi Yan said naturally. Meiji's charming face was blushing when she heard that. She looked a little loathing and uneasy. Chapter 1434, Invincible Might from the Sky. Chapter 1434, Invincible Might from the Sky, _ Boom, boom. The dark and grumbling thunder boomed on the light curtain and sparked brilliant lights everywhere. The light curtain didn't have a scratch. Telika's face was dark and sinister, talking. What was that? On the other side, Batum was like a mad dog. His entire body was a straight sword thrusting into the light curtain above their heads. He had pounded on the curtain until his head bled. Farlow, Yerberg, and Ling Mei were hovering aside. The black guards of the mysterious Sky Clan looked at the sky, their faces stern. After they had left the area that had the power Upanishad symbol tower, they understood each other well enough not to part. They gathered and tried to get out of this absolute beginning vestige to return to the Sea of Annihilation. Minghao and the God Lord's intimidation had scared them. When they saw Shi Yan's power Upanishad devour Gonfu, they finally collapsed. They finally noticed that with their power, it was impossible to rob the power Upanishad symbol tower. Ling Mei and Batum were resolute warriors. Seeing that they couldn't change the situation, they immediately changed the plan. They understood that as long as they got rid of this light barrier and reported to their seniors in the clans, those real experts would come immediately. The 7 great clans knew about the legends of the power Upanishad symbol tower. However, until now, no clan had ever had a complete tower. To vie for the power Upanishad symbol tower, those territory ancestor realm experts weren't going to hesitate to pay any price. The power Upanishad symbol tower could produce the absolute beginning original symbol that had the ultimate power Upanishad, the supernatural power. From this aspect, the power Upanishad symbol tower was even more precious than an absolute beginning divine weapon. As long as we escape this area and release the news, none of them can run away, said Ling Mei. The others nodded in agreement. Batum's god power surged. His body turned slightly transparent. He moved forward, his 2 hands creating a great storm, hitting the light curtain. The curtain light was still closed. Ling Mei and Farlow became serious. It's not good if we continue that way. If we consume more energy, once they chase us here, it'll be a lot of trouble, said Ling Mei. Do you have any suggestion? Farlow knitted her brows. Although we've assigned Batum to break the light curtain, we can't stay idle. I'm sure they will come after us. Ling Mei wore a cold face. I'm sure we will have a bloody battle soon. We should prepare from now on. Yeah, from this area, we're going to set up as many barriers, formations, and restrictions as we can. Taking a deep breath, she continued, if we can't avoid it, we must risk our life once. If we're well prepared, we can take the upper hand first. Farlow nodded. True, I support your idea. We should carry it out immediately. Batum, you try to deal with that light barrier. We're going to implement our plan now. Ling Mei lifted her head to notice Batum and then shouted, commanding her black guards, Telika, Yerberg, and Farlow. From where they were staying as the center, they set up and expanded many barriers. Halos, lightning walls, and lakes appeared in the massive ruins. Ling Mei, Farlow, and the others moved around, urging their powers and using so many secret treasures to set up traps. Dash. Over there. In the middle of the ruins, Ming Hao rose one hand and pointed in one direction. He said darkly, "They're setting up defensive barriers and restrictions. It seems like they want to fight against us with their lives. Yeah, I think they've recognized that they can't get out and they can't avoid this bloody battle. That's why they decided to use all that they have to see if they can kill us." The God Lord looked indifferent, his face mocking. They aren't wrong and their deeds aren't ordinary. Unfortunately, they're too naive. Ming Hao and the God Lord had swaggered in this world for dozens of thousands of years. The blood that their hands bled was even more than the amount of water in the sea. They were real, great demons with absolute confidence and pride. For example, when the God Lord was at third sky of Immortal Realm, he had fought against Bloodthirsty at the Territory Ancestor Realm. Although Bloodthirsty had already been hurt before, his victory was still enough to prove his intimidation. Dozens of thousands of years ago, Ming Hao, the chief of Soul Control Force, had already had tens of thousands of clones. He had subdued and controlled the leaders of many star areas. He had single-handedly grown the Soul Control Force vigorously to resist the God Clan. Also, the God Clan had spent 10,000 years and couldn't touch his shadow. This expert was truly sharp-witted and cunning. Audrey floated on the massive brutal Soul Lotus throne. Her eyes were clear but cold. She curled the corners of her mouth as if she was angry. While her bright eyes moved around, she often checked Shiryen and Meiji. She looked more intense as her discontent was swelling in her heart. Shiryen and Meiji moved shoulder by shoulder. They were whispering as if they were talking about some deal or agreement. With your individual power, even if you have the Power Upanishad symbol tower, it's hard to create another absolute beginning original symbol. You can't find that enormous amount of materials. Meiji wore a smile on her face. She had regained her gorgeousness. To refine an absolute beginning original symbol, it could require the experts that top one territory. The sources you have can't do that. But our Phantom Clan can. What do you think? Meiji felt sincerely joyful. She knew how precious the Power Upanishad symbol tower was. If Shiryen cooperated with the Phantom Clan and let the clan supply the materials to refine the absolute beginning original symbol, the Phantom Clan could earn something. As Shiryen had come from desolate territory, he couldn't use billions of creatures dwelling in desolate territory to refine the absolute beginning original symbol. He had to depend on the big clans like one of the 7 great clans to do that. Today, because Ling Mei had turned her back to him, no matter what Tu Shiqi and Yayun had promised him, he couldn't cooperate with the mysterious Sky Clan anymore. Besides, Shiryen had offended the Black Demon Clan, the Ancient Monster Clan, the Soul Clan, and the Devouring Clan, leaving him with only the Phantom Clan and the White Bone Clan to choose. Meiji had calculated detailedly. She couldn't hide her bright face. She believed that if her seniors knew that she could bring Shiryen to the Phantom Clan with a complete Power Upanishad symbol tower, they would kick Batum away. Compared to the Power Upanishad symbol tower, Batum's value was worthless. Especially in this case, Shiryen also knew dark energy, which gave him a certain chance to reach the Territory Ancestor Realm. The feeling of having a fortune fall from the sky comforted Meiji and made her happy. She couldn't help but smile. But what if they want me to be his woman to strengthen the bond? What should I do then? For the sake of the Phantom Clan, I should do that, right? Right, for the clan. Not that I like him. Yeah, that's true. Meiji thought and suddenly felt light. She unconsciously glanced at Shiryen and blushed. Her watery eyes were like rivers in springtime. Lewd. Not far from them, Audrey observed with a cold face. Looking at Meiji's mature, inviting appearance, she couldn't help but rebuke her and pout her lips. Oh well, what does it have to do with you? I'm talking about something romantic and intimate with my man. What are you jealous of? Meiji was content to see Audrey's cold face. She turned around to mock Audrey. Shiryen had played a little bit with her name and said that she was his woman. It wasn't something to make a fuss if she used his name to play too. Meiji didn't realize that she was discreetly satisfied when she said so. Audrey snorted, her face cold. Shiryen was surprised. He couldn't believe that the two women have chosen this time to quarrel. Raking around, he had a good sense, so he accelerated and turned into a flaming jet, heading forward. Minghao halted. The area of ruins in front of them had massive rocks floating in the air like raindrops. Lingmei stood right behind the rock rain curtain and faced them with strangely calm countenances. Batum had stopped hitting the light curtain. Unexpectedly, he walked forward and said, "It was really easy when we got down here. Especially for me, I didn't encounter any obstacle. But now, when we want to leave, we found layers of difficulties. I've tried every trick I know to break the light curtain up there." Pausing for a while, he said, "We shouldn't fight this time. I suggest you guys spend more effort on breaking the light curtain. After that, we can fight to see who can stand until the last moment." He had tried everything he knew. If he had successfully pierced through the light curtain, he wouldn't have saved energy for a deadly battle. Lingmei looked calm, but she was actually worried. "Meiji Shiryan, it's no use to fight here. If we can't break it, no one can get out. Why should we kill each other? It doesn't mean we can't break it when you couldn't. Lingmei, you've teased me. You said that the phantom women couldn't compare to you. Well, I want to see now if you're really stronger than me. I was hurt and you were at your best condition at that time. Now you got hurt too. Finally, we can have a fair game." Meiji's smile bloomed like a flower. She looked extremely comfortable. "You damn slut. What do you think you will get if you help them?" Batum grinned fiendishly. "Once I break through to the territory ancestor realm, the Phantom clan will bring you to my door." "Well, let's see how I will play with you then." "Well, I'm afraid you don't have that chance," intervened Shiryan. "Because of you only?" Batum sneered. When Meiji said that they could break the light curtain, Batum knew that his suggestions couldn't work. He couldn't move his enemies verbally. He finally understood that the coming battle was inevitable. Almost instantly, he had made a heartless decision. He threw all the things that made him hesitant behind his head. He was ready to die in this battle. "Even if you want to get through our arrangement, you have to pay a bloody price." Lingmei gritted her teeth and said with a cold face, "Meiji, come fight me. What price will we possibly have to pay?" Shiryan felt funny. His eyes flashed strangely. The power Upanishad symbol tower emerged from his head. In just a blink of an eye, it had ballooned and become as imposing as a grand mountain. He didn't know the secrets of the power Upanishad symbol tower and the light curtain, but he knew that they had a close relationship. He knew one thing. Under this light curtain, the power Upanishad symbol tower were never damaged by barriers, restrictions, or formations. Indeed, when the power Upanishad symbol tower slowly landed, it hit a lightning circle first. When the first thunder sounded, the light curtain above their heads radiated a blinding light. The intense light shot out from the sky, shining on that area with barriers and restrictions. When the power Upanishad symbol tower landed, thunder boomed in that area, followed by earth-shaking explosions. All the defenses Lingmei and the others had set up were destroyed. Chapter 1435, Enjoy a Carefree Meal. Chapter 1435, Enjoy a Carefree Meal. Underscore the power Upanishad symbol tower spun and released a dazzling rainbow-like light. It looked like an eternal sun. Light columns that were hundreds of meters long shone directly on the power Upanishad symbol tower. The tower was now bigger and more intimidating. It was more colossal than a mountain. Standing next to it, Shiryan, Minghao, and the others were like small butterflies or gray light dots. The power Upanishad symbol tower slowly descended and brought pressure that could even destroy the entire world. So many lights shot rapidly like meteors. All the restrictions, barriers, and formations bloomed magnificently like fireworks. Their debut was so marvelous, but their ends came close after. How could it be? Lingmei groaned in agony. Her face twisted as she felt her energy all get drained. She was deeply frightened. Batum was bewildered. Seeing the power Upanishad symbol tower slowly pressing, he changed his face and screamed, "Retreat." Instantly, everybody urged their power and fled as fast as possible. They were afraid that the power Upanishad symbol tower would smash them. Boom! The Power Upanishad symbol tower sat like a mountain and mashed all ruins of palaces and towers. Eventually, it stood majestically on the ground. Shi Yan was bewildered. He couldn't help but scream. Awesome! Ming Hao and the God Lord looked surprised. They felt awkward when the Power Upanishad symbol tower landed. It seemed like the Power Upanishad symbol tower could draw the power from the light curtain. The moment it landed, a power that could destroy the world appeared and made Ming Hao and the God Lord feel small. They exchanged looks and they saw fear in each other's eyes. They understood that if they hadn't ducked and stayed right under the tower, they wouldn't have escaped death when it pressed down. That power was even scarier than the heaven might. How could you do that? Mei Ji's beautiful eyes rippled beautiful light. She smiled as if she was enjoying the New Year's celebration. It's so interesting to see Ling Mei like a stray, gray dog. Ling Mei ran away from under the Power Upanishad symbol tower. She had dust all over her body and even in her hair. She looked indeed helter-skelter. The blackguards of the mysterious Sky Clan were aghast. They looked at the tower and shivered. Telika and Yerberg had gloomy eyes. They looked terror-struck. It seems like your defense is useless. Haha, I thought you were tough enough, weren't you? Mei Ji giggled and moved like a graceful snake woman. Her hips swayed on her way toward Ling Mei. Come and have a decent fight. Let's see if you can defeat me. Mei Ji looked cold instantly, ice spreading in her eyes. Crack! 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 Under her feet, the rocks were frozen and shattered. Pieces of ice shot everywhere. Her long hair flew in the wind like icy, silver needles, which made her wilder and colder. Instantly, hundreds of thousands of tiny ice needles shot out from her body. Unexpectedly, she was the first one to take action. I have to go home, really. I don't want to waste more time. The God Lord strode, and light congregated above his head, creating a dazzling world of colorful light. A light ball that looked like a whole planet made of gold flew out of his incipient extent. The light ball spun, crushing space and falling on Telika, Yerberg, and Farlow. The massive gold lances were like hedgehog spikes that shot toward them. Telika, Yerbo, and Farlow, the three outstanding warriors of the 7 great clans, looked like they were made of gold under that gold light. The gold light on their bodies was blazing to the others. Puffed. Telika spurted blood. Countless gory holes appeared on his body as he began to bleed terribly. Yerberg and Farlow weren't better. They were also bleeding when the gold lights hit them. They were taken down. Soul-devouring. Shi Yan glided past the Power Upanishad symbol tower. While moving, he whispered something. The black hole flew out of his glabella. Just like a massive mouth, it opened and snatched Yerberg, Farlow, and Telika. It was ready to swallow their soul altars when they got out of their bodies. Seeing the black hole coming, Yerberg and the other 2 were desperate. They knew that they couldn't even escape using the soul. You can't flee. The God Lord strolled to them, light radiating from him. Beams of holy, pure light cut and gashed their bodies like sharp blades. They were minced into pieces of flesh. Farlow was also at third sky of immortal realm. However, she didn't have a bit of energy to resist the God Lord. As their bodies were destroyed, their soul altars had to leave quickly. They tried their best to run. There came a terrifying suction force from the black hole that was aimed at their soul altars. Invisible ropes tied them down. No matter how hard they wiggled, they couldn't escape. One after another, they were sucked into the black hole. After the 3 soul altars were dragged into the black hole, Shi Yan's soul felt like he was having a great feast. Both of the souls were extremely satisfied. You guys should go with them too. The God Lord sounded calm. His shadow swiftly moved and reappeared by the members of the mysterious Sky Clan behind Ling Mei. A new world of magnificent light arose and turned into a massive hand of a light god that grabbed the blackguards. They were squeezed to death. Shi Yan's black hole came after and swallowed the soul altars of those blackguards. He felt happier, indeed. At that moment, his body moved agilely like a merman to help the devouring Power Upanishad collect the essence chi from the others' bodies. His acupuncture points started to get busy. In just a short time, the God Lord solved Telika, the black guards of the mysterious Sky Clan, and the others single-handedly. Still wearing an indifferent face, he shook his head and said regretfully, "They're weaker than Xianhe and Frederick." As they were at third sky of Immortal Realm, Farlow was one level higher than Xianhe and Frederick. However, their real confidence was much weaker. Of course, it was because the God Lord had recovered his consumed energy after resting for a long time. As the bold one who dared to stand against Bloodthirsty, of course, he had his own intimidating aura. "If you want to kill me, you have to pay a painful price. Do you not believe it?" Batum's round body floated in the void. So many tornadoes followed each other, hovering like giant gray dragons by him. Those tornadoes touched both the sky and the ground, swaying and rolling. They were like gray smoke and mist that burst to the sky or the tongue of some fearful demons. A strange energy fluctuated from the center of those tornadoes, which made Minghao frown. Shiyan focused on sensing and then spoke, "It's dark energy. Those tornadoes have bits of dark energy in the center." He has not reached the territory ancestor realm yet, so he can only use the energy that way. Even if he doesn't understand the dark energy thoroughly, it's still very powerful. Pausing, Shiyan reminded, he wants to risk his life. Minghao pouted his lips and said coldly, "He's way behind our master from that year." "Yeah, he's millions of miles behind. He's just an amateur with a shallow understanding of dark energy, and he thinks he can overturn the situation." Then, beams of light radiated from Minghao's body. Instantly, so many big mirrors were conjured in the void. They were like hanging mountains indeed. When Minghao's light shone on them, they reflected so many different worlds and illusions. With countless soul clones, the mirrors had reflected Minghao's figure everywhere. There were more than tens of thousands of him now. Minghao's reflections had filled the entire sky, creating a sea of people and blocking Batum in the middle. It was like an army of tens of thousands of soldiers attacking only Batum. Batum couldn't tell which was his real body. Shiyan observed for a while and he eased his mind, continuing to concentrate on taking in the essence chi from the dead. With the 3 supernatural abilities, soul control, cloning, and space, Minghao had become the greatest magician ever in this world. He could even trouble a territory ancestor realm expert. A bungler like Batum was no match. Crucial ice explode. On the other side, Meiji wore an icy face, facing Ling Mei and striking crazily. Ice exploded everywhere and sent ice sabers to Ling Mei. Ling Mei was hiding in a water pond where water was surging and creating layers to defend against the ice explosions. Meiji sneered and pressed forward. More ice exploded between her and Ling Mei. It looked like countless dynamites had been buried in the ice and went off at the same time, sending so many icicles that were dozens of meters long toward the water pond. Ling Mei paled inside the water pond. The light in her eyes slowly dimmed out. "Well, didn't you brutally attack me?" Meiji jeered. "If I hadn't been hurt and still had all my energy, how were you going to defeat me? At this moment, we aren't very different and you're only hiding from me." Ling Mei gritted her teeth and said nothing. "Well, let me tell you something." Meiji walked toward her, lowering her voice. "Do you know what is the worst thing you've done?" Ling Mei was bewildered. "You should have listened to Tu Shi. You should have tried your best to create a good relationship with Shiyan. Then, you could have gotten the power Upanishad symbol tower." With only his individual competence, he couldn't refine the absolute beginning original symbol. It's obvious. Only those of the 7 great clans have the capacity to do that. Because you're greedy, you have to bury your corpse here with nothing. It's really ridiculous, you say. You think you're smart. But it's just you who think so. Thus, you're not as strong as me. You will never defeat me. Regardless it is power, will, or judgment, said Meiji arrogantly. Puffed, puffed, puffed. Countless icicles shot over and destroyed the water layers, piercing Ling Mei. Ling Mei shook hard, her waist bleeding. The light in her eyes dimmed. Meiji wasn't polite. She continued to attack more harshly with her ice power Upanishad, hitting the water pond directly. Shiyan squinted and watched Ling Mei for a while. He knew she couldn't escape death this time. Then, he turned to Batum. God Lord, sir, if you want to go home early, put more effort. We should finish Batum soon. Don't waste people's time. The God Lord snorted. Pondering for a while, he jumped into the fantasy world that Minghao had created. Shortly after, Shiyan heard Batum screeching. It seemed like he wasn't far from death. Chapter 1436, A Strong Current. Chapter 1436, A Strong Current, _ Inside the fantasy space mirrors, Batum's voice weakened. The God Lord and Minghao had joined hands to kill him. Batum couldn't get out with his body. Indeed, when the scream from the mirror ceased, Batum's soul altar flew out like a breeze of wind, trying to escape. Shiyan's black hole was hovering by the light curtain and waiting for him patiently. A soul-sucking force came. Batum's soul struggled hard, but he couldn't escape. Following Yerbo and the others, he was dragged into the black hole. Almost at the same time, the water pond that Lingmei's power had created froze as the icy energy intruded. Inside the water pond, Lingmei was a beautiful ice sculpture, locked in the pond. From a distance, it looked like she was sealed in a world of ice where only the beauty of the coldness was exposed. Lingmei's breathing slowly subsided. Her gloomy eyes looked at Shiyan from a distance as she tried to shake her head. Her eyes showed her deep regret. She regretted that she didn't listen to Tu Shiqi's advice. She regretted that she didn't make a precise assumption. She had caused the deaths of her team and herself. She knew Tu Shiqi was correct. Unfortunately, it was too late to regret. I know you owe Tu Shiqi a favor, Meiji resumed her graceful charm, her eyes bright. So, do you need me to show mercy and spare her life? Lingmei was shaken. She looked yearning and begging when she eyed Shiyan. Shiyan shook his head and said with a cold face, I'm not a good guy. If someone wants to kill me, no matter who she is or what title she bears, I will treat her the same way. While talking, he finished swallowing Batum's soul altar. Then, he landed on the frozen water pond. His 10 fingers interlaced and sent 10 sharp blades that gashed the frozen pond. Crack! Crack! The space sabers cut the pond into numerous pieces. Of course, Lingmei was frozen inside and couldn't escape. Her body was like a diamond under the cutter. The black hole, an ability of devouring power Upanishad, came as a massive mouth. Without giving time for Lingmei to resist, a soul-sucking force came and swallowed her within one attempt. You're truly evil and heartless. You can do such things to a beautiful flower? Lingmei of the mysterious Sky Clan was famous for her glamour. You killed her. Don't you feel regret? Meiji smiled and teased Shiyan, her eyes bright and excited. Beautiful women are everywhere. It's not rare. It doesn't matter how many of them die. Shiyan frowned and lifted his head to watch the sky. We need to break that light curtain to leave soon. Yeah, and you must hurry. Those dead warriors had high positions in their clans. Their souls should have some connection. Minghong was lying on Audrey's shoulder and talking in a low voice. You got this, don't you? He turned to Meiji. Meiji's smile ceased and she nodded. Yerberg and Lingmei were important warriors in their clans. Usually, a wisp of their souls are connected to some treasures. When their souls died, those treasures react. You mean, the members of the 7 clans already know that Yerberg, Lingmei, and Telika are murdered? Shiyan changed his visage slightly. Possibly, Meiji confirmed. Anyway, we must kill them. If they sent information, the others will know what happened here. They would know about the power Upanishad symbol tower and the absolute beginning original symbol. They can even know the location. Pausing for a while, she continued, but now, they only know that Yerberg and Lingmei were dead. They wouldn't know what had happened down here or the location. Once we leave this place, it will be really hard to find us in the Sea of Annihilation. She's right. We should hurry to leave before they get here. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. They said that Tate's teacher is in the Sea of Annihilation too. If he knows, I think we won't be able to live. We should return to desolate territory as quickly as possible. Minghong said sternly. He had refined Sing's soul, so he knew many secrets of the Soul Clan. He knew how terrifying that person was. It was easy to guess that Tate's death would enrage that person. Thus, he was a little scared. Tate's teacher, the God Lord's bold voice arose. Very powerful? Is he as strong as bloodthirsty? Neptune is one of the 3 great territory ancestors of the Soul Clan. Although he's at the first sky of the realm, he has the absolute beginning divine weapon called the Soul Refining Cauldron. Neptune is really powerful in addition to having the cauldron. I don't know how strong Bloodthirsty became later, but when I left, he wasn't stronger than Neptune. Minghong was cautious. He hasn't finished making his life treasure, the Soul Refining Cauldron, yet. He needs more strong souls. If the Soul Refining Cauldron becomes complete, I think he'll be more intimidating. He's not as strong as my master, said Minghao. The God Lord agreed with him. Bloodthirsty could defeat Devour, the ancestor of the Devouring clan, and make it dormant. After that Bloodthirsty got hurt, he could still slaughter our union. I had to sacrifice my body and the leaders of the big forces everywhere to kill him. Neptune can't compare to Bloodthirsty in his best condition. I don't know who Bloodthirsty is, but I know Neptune's really formidable. If he can tame the Soul Refining Cauldron to reach second sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, he will become one of the 10 great Territory Ancestors. When he comes here, none of us will be able to resist him. Batum and Gonfu are just rookies compared to him, intervened Meiji. I think we can't fight against Neptune now, said Minghong. Minghao and the God Lord sighed when the other 2 said so. The God Lord said, too bad that I haven't reached the Territory Ancestor Realm. Otherwise, I would never see that Neptune with my eyes. Break that light curtain, quickly, hissed Minghao. Shuryen nodded. Then, without saying anything else, he plunged on the majestic power Upanishad symbol tower. Lifting his head to observe the light curtain, he sank into his thoughts. The Kosoul in his brain had many absolute beginning symbols move disorderly. He couldn't fuse completely with Desolate Soul, so he couldn't understand the meaning of the symbols. He focused, holding his breath and trying to see what mysteries they hid. However, the black hole was revolving fast. The massive mouth sent out refined energy that stimulated his mind. He knew that the black hole got a big harvest this time. Batum, Gonfu, Yerberg, and the others had profound realms, and Batum and Gonfu had dark energy. The refining process was much slower than at other times, and he expected some troubles too. Then it happened. The refining process that happened inside the black hole had affected his mind and distracted him. He didn't understand those symbols that would have allowed him to discover the secrets of the power Upanishad symbol tower. He couldn't even focus. Gradually, Shuryen felt so irritated. As time flew, he still stood on the power Upanishad symbol tower without moving or taking any action. Brian's face slowly darkened. If he lied to us and he can't open the light curtain, I'll do my best to kill him to vent my wrath. Minghao's face was also dark and gloomy. He frowned and looked pensive. Meiji and Audrey kept silent. They were frightened, indeed. They just hoped that Shuryen could find a way to get them out of here. Sea of Annihilation. In the Soul Clan's base, the souls were like snakes slithering around the island and gathering departed souls and ghosts on the brocade flags, bringing them back to Neptune. The Soul Refining Cauldron spun above Neptune's head and sucked all the brutal souls and ghosts. The absolute beginning symbols on the Soul Refining Cauldron began to sparkle and then move like tiny snakes. Puffed. Shortly after, on Neptune's thin and dry arm, a soul bead exploded. It turned into wisps of smoke, congregating and creating a blurry face. It was Tate, and it was dull and blank without living energy. As he was refining the Soul Refining Cauldron, his eyes darkened when the soul bead shattered. Each disciple of his had given him a soul seal that he kept in a soul bead. From that soul seal, he could sense his disciples' location, or he could smash their souls easily. It was a dark technique to control his disciples. Of course, when his disciples died, he would know it first and he would even know the location of the incident. Today, Tate's soul bead exploded. Neptune knew what happened. His eyes rolled fast. Using the souls of 3 incipient God Realm experts as sacrificial objects, he cast a supernatural technique to search. After a while, Neptune snorted. Trash. He dared to deceive me and get into the sea to find the absolute beginning vestige. I have no pity for his death. I'd wasted my efforts to train him for thousands of years. He opened his mouth to cast a spell, which then fell into the soul-refining cauldron. Instantaneously, billions of souls swarmed into the cauldron. Putting the cauldron into his sleeve, Neptune got up and vanished like a shadow. On another island in the Sea of Annihilation, Tu Shirchi and his wife, Yeyun, were drinking with forefather dragon Lizard on the island. They were discussing some important matters. Ding! 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 The tinkling sounds of a bell arose from Yeyun's sleeve. She was surprised to hear the small bell. Then, she used her soul to receive the message from the mysterious Sky Clan's headquarters. Yeyun became so frightened. She jolted up and screamed. The soul tree of that little girl Ling Mei withered. She'd perished utterly. Before we came here, Ling Mei had taken the Black Guards to the sea to search for the absolute beginning vestige. She died there. Tu Shirchi changed his face. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Dragon Lizard brother, please go with us to the seabed." Ling Mei had a special profile. She was Han Tian's granddaughter. Dragon Lizard also changed his countenance. He knew that the Sea of Annihilation wouldn't be calm anymore. "Okay, I'm going with you guys." Chapter 1437, Frantic Suppression. Chapter 1437, Frantic Suppression. Undersea ruins. Shuryen sat neatly atop the power Upanishad symbol tower, his face stern. He was trying to find a way to break the light curtain. He didn't know that because of Yerberg, Telika, Farlow, Ling Mei, and Tate, the entire Sea of Annihilation was surging. The experts of the Soul Clan, Mysterious Sky Clan, Devouring Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan in the Sea of Annihilation were using different channels to confirm why their juniors died. The 5 clans announced that they were trying their best to find the murderers. They had urged their forces to search through the entire Sea of Annihilation, whether they were on the surface or on the seabed. At this moment, the experts of the 5 clans had visited each island in the Sea of Annihilation. The Phantom Clan was also trying to search and call for Meiji to come back to the clan. The Sea of Annihilation erupted as if it detonated. This incident was much more influential than many people had expected. Quickly, the information about the absolute beginning vestige released unknowingly. The secret of the power Upanishad symbol tower was revealed, angering the other clans besides the 7 great clans. The Sea of Annihilation was hustling and bustling. People moved around on the sea, in the seabed, and at every corner. The warriors began to search for something. "If we can't leave soon, Neptune will come at any minute. I know the Soul Clan's evil deeds, and I know how Neptune is. I'm sure he can vaguely locate us from Tate's death." Ming Hong became solemn. At his realm and cultivation base, once he finds the right direction, he will arrive faster than we think. What Ming Hong had said had put more pressure on the group. Audrey and Meiji decided to stay silent. They didn't dare to talk as they were afraid that they could enrage the God Lord and Ming Hao, which would bring Shuryen unnecessary troubles. The God Lord looked cold and harsh. His eyes scanned Shuryen, the cold intention on his face clear. He was losing his patience. "If he can't break the confinement, you two will be buried with him," the God Lord snorted. His eyes fell on Audrey and Meiji. The 2 women felt shivers running down their spines. "You can't touch Audrey if I'm here," Ming Hao wore a cold face. Meiji felt so chilled. Pondering, she forced a smile. "Yeah, you can kill me. But if Shuryen can't break this place, even if I die, you won't live. None of us can leave, to be exact. Neptune alone can kill all of us." Hearing her, Ming Hao and the God Lord became more restless. They all grimaced. "Shut up, all of you," Shuryen bellowed and landed all of a sudden. From a distance, he looked at the God Lord and then at Ming Hao, speaking coldly. "You two, shut your mouths too." Then, the power Upanishad symbol tower bloomed with billions of dazzling light rays. It began to move with ultimate power, grumblingly pressing down on the God Lord and Ming Hao. "You guys can kill Batum and Gonfu here. I can kill you too. Do you think you're that strong?" The power Upanishad symbol tower suddenly emitted the formidable heavenly might. It rose in the void and then grumblingly landed. The God Lord and Ming Hao lifted their heads to watch with severe countenances. They were dumbstruck indeed. At this moment, they remembered that Shuryen had used the power Upanishad symbol tower to break all the restrictions and barriers that Lingmei, Batum, and the others had set up in just one strike. The God Lord and Minghao were frightened. They were scared because of that invincible might. At this moment, Shuryen, in his wrath, had controlled the power Upanishad symbol tower that was pressing on their heads. They were startled indeed. They now recognized that with the power Upanishad symbol tower in this absolute beginning vestige, Shuryen wasn't a soft persimmon for them to squeeze as they pleased. Although I can't break the light curtain immediately, it's not a big deal to control the power Upanishad symbol tower to play with you too, Shuryen said harshly. The power Upanishad symbol tower fell from the sky. So many light layers dropped from the sky streaming into the windows on the power Upanishad symbol tower. At that moment, the threat from the power Upanishad symbol tower rocketed several times. Under that pressure, the God Lord and Minghao could hear their bones cracking. They seemed to not be able to resist such pressure, and their bodies were about to burst. That pressure wasn't aimed at Audrey and Meiji. When they saw things going wrong, they had parted already. This pressure could be compared to a strike from territory ancestor realm experts. Extremely formidable, indeed. Minghao couldn't help but scream on Audrey's shoulder. What are they doing? That young man doesn't know the general picture, and those two old men have lost their minds. If they continue this way, they will die altogether before the enemies come. Audrey and Meiji were worried and sorrowful. They didn't know what to say to ease the situation. Kid, you dare to attack us now? You aren't afraid of death, are you? Bellowed the God Lord. Shuryen! What the heck are you doing? Screamed Minghao. I want to tell you that even if I can't break the restriction in this area, you don't have the right to babble here. I'm standing here to see who you will bury with me. You asked who courts death. Shuryen sneered and looked crazy. Minghao, I am the master of the bloodthirsty force. With your dark scheme, you want trouble, don't you? I'll show you that the prestige of the bloodthirsty force's master isn't something you can challenge. The power Upanishad symbol tower descended grumblingly with terrifying waves of energy fluctuations that created waves of light above Minghao and the God Lord. Minghao and the God Lord straightened their bodies, their hands pushing the sky. One of them had 5 stars revolving and the other had billions of clones. Altogether, they were trying to resist the descending power Upanishad symbol tower. Ganfu, Batum, Yerberg, Telika, and Farlo were all experts at the immortal realm. After they died, the negative energies including brutality, desperation, resent, and others in their essence chi had poured into Shuryen's acupuncture points. After their soul altars were swallowed, many pieces of memories that didn't belong to Shuryen continuously flashed in his mind. They troubled him a lot. He was annoyed and irritated. The negative energies seized the chance to affect him. Because he couldn't break the light curtain, he had lost his patience and become edgy. Negative energies attacked him easily in this condition. The God Lord's jeering and sinister words, Minghao observing him with his cold eyes and the dark conspiracy. Shuryen knew them all. At this moment, he finally cracked and lost his temper. He ignored the light curtain, Neptune, and the others. After his volcano ignited, he erupted. Boom! Between the God Lord, Minghao, and the power Upanishad symbol tower, there was a combat area where the energy from the tower entangled with the God Lord's and Minghao's energies. Their energies were colliding and fighting against each other. That area was so beautiful with blazing sparks and magnificent blooming lights. It was more impressive than the most beautiful firework performance. However, the energy from the impact was extremely terrifying. The energy shockwaves had crushed the rocks and the ruins around into powder in just a blink of an eye. Everything had become dust. Audrey and Meiji had to move further away to avoid the fierce battle. They screamed because Shuryen had suddenly become frantic and stirred the situation to the point that they couldn't save it. They felt so begrudging. Meiji and Audrey wanted to cry, thinking that while the others were fighting, the warriors of the Sea of Annihilation like Neptune were marching toward them. Why did they have to do that? Shuryen, are you crazy? Minghao thundered. So many clones of him perished while colliding with the energy from the power Upanishad symbol tower. He could feel his energy drain away as the energy from the power Upanishad symbol tower was crushing down. Seeing the God Lord about to burst out frantically, he regretted it. He regretted letting the God Lord threaten Shuryen. He regretted not recognizing how dangerous Shuryen could be in this area with the power Upanishad symbol tower in his hands. Haha, I've had to endure you guys for a long time. Shuryen sat on the power Upanishad symbol tower and laughed crazily. Today, I will play everything I have. Even if I die, I will show you my power. Do you still think you're invincible? If you are, how could we throw you here and trap you for dozens of years? Well, if you don't see the danger, you won't remember for a long time. You still think you're the overlords. Boom. The power Upanishad symbol tower continued to press down. Erg! The God Lord and Minghao roared. They felt like so many planets were placed on their heads that they couldn't even stand upright. Minghao is just a soul, so his condition wasn't really bad. His soul flickered as his soul power was quickly consumed. The God Lord's body made crack sounds as if he was about to shatter. They found that the frantic Shuryen was even tougher than bloodthirsty. This kid didn't reason or use logic. He didn't care about the general picture too. He wasn't afraid of death. To vie for some vague thing, he could even destroy the whole world. When they finally recognized this, they felt so bitter. They couldn't estimate how strong he was with the power Upanishad symbol tower in this area. They were all regretful. They shouldn't have pushed Shuryen to make him burst out at the end of the corner. They shouldn't have attacked him verbally and instead try to clear the situation. Unfortunately, their regret came a little too late. Shuryen's eyes turned garnet in his frenzied state. They knew that he wouldn't listen to any word, so they could only resist persistently. They reaped what they sowed, indeed. They smiled bitterly. Audrey and Meiji felt their scalps become numb. They were so worried, as if they had a flame burning their hearts. They decided to scream about how Neptune and the others were coming to persuade them to stop. No use. The boy's eyes are red now. It's the sign of his exploding state. I understood the bloodthirsty force enough to tell you that in such a state, he has lost his mind. He can't hear you, sighed Minghong. Then what should we do? Meiji was panic-stricken. There is no solution. Minghong shook his head. All of a sudden, the seawater forcefully fell from the sky. They heard the sounds of swarming water, baffling them. However, they knew what had happened shortly after. They couldn't hide their thrill. Meiji shrilled, broken. It's broken. I got it. The power Upanishad symbol tower has taken too much energy from the light curtain. It's not enough to resist anymore. The water pressure finally tore it. Lucky bastard. The boy just bumped around and he found the right method. Minghong also screamed strangely. Chapter 1438, Meiji's Boldness. Chapter 1438, Meiji's Boldness. _seabed. The flows of light from the light curtain streamed into the opened windows of the power Upanishad symbol tower. The horrible water pressure swarmed over and brought billions of water currents pouring from the sky. After a moment, the absolute beginning vestige was covered in water. Without the light curtain's protection, everybody was suffocating under the water pressure. It felt like they were pressed between two mountains. They had to gather the god power to create a light cage to cover their bodies entirely. Shortly after, the light curtain in the dome that covered the vestige had entered the power Upanishad symbol tower completely. The tower shone radiantly and its power rocketed dozens of times. The God Lord and Minghong were frightened. Minghong's clones scattered. The God Lord's body was cracking. They were about to be smashed. Shuryen! Audrey's clear and cold voice was like a cold water current shooting toward Shuryen. Audrey had sent her energy with the essence of the God-blessed mainland, which had a subtle connection to Shuryen's co-soul, together with her call. The call with her spirit and desolate soul dashed toward Shuryen and stimulated his frantic mind. Shuryen looked lucid for a while. The light curtain is broken. We can go home now. Seeing him lucid, Audrey pushed it further. We shouldn't waste more time. We're going home now. We're going home now. The blood-red color in Shuryen's eyes subsided. His mind came back to him. He sat cross-legged atop the Power Upanishad symbol tower and observed his surroundings. After pondering for a while, he jumped off the tower. When the God Lord and Minghong were about to collapse, he waved his hand and grabbed the tower. It shrank magically. After less than a minute, it was as big as his palm. Shuryan put it into his incipient extent. Minghong and the God Lord exhaled in relief. They exchanged forced smiles and were too exhausted to talk. 20,000 years ago, Bloodthirsty's debut had shadowed the entire world. He had pushed Imperial Dark Tribe away from their ruling throne and suffocated the tribe. Many experts of Imperial Dark Tribe were killed or they fled to other territories to avoid the lethal wave. No one knew why Minghong wanted to follow Bloodthirsty and fight for him. He had helped the Bloodthirsty force become the overlord of desolate territory, enslaving everybody. 10,000 years later, Brian the God Lord was destined to take the Genesis fruit and receive Desolate's inheritance. With Desolate's trigger in the dark, he had seized the chance to finish Bloodthirsty, who was hurt severely. The God Clan then replaced the Bloodthirsty force to turn the world upside down. However, whether it was Minghong or the God Lord, they were subdued by Bloodthirsty for the rest of their lives. The God Lord could become the winners in the end. It wasn't because he was strong. He just had an excellent opportunity. After that, the God Lord's body exploded and turned into dust. He had to survive with only a wisp of his soul. After 10,000 years, he had borrowed Haig's body to come to this world one more time. Bloodthirsty was the high mountain that they would never cross, even if they had spent the rest of their life attempting to. After so many years, when Bloodthirsty's influence finally ceased, they thought that they could finally become the master of this earth and heaven. And then, Shuryan slowly grew up. Today, Shuryan had the first sky of Immortal Realm cultivation base. Although he was using external forces, he could suppress them and attack them frantically. And they couldn't do anything to counterattack. As they thought that they could finally escape the nightmare called Bloodthirsty and become the master of this world, they got so bitter and discontented upon seeing Shuryan. However, they could only sigh inwardly. They recognized that although Bloodthirsty was gone, he had left a tough riddle. Shuryan was the seed of this riddle. Previously, they didn't even bat an eye at the seed. They looked down on him and thought about him as a chess piece or a joke. In just a blink of an eye, this seed sprouted and grew to a big towering tree. That tree gradually shaded their light. To them, they had been waiting painstakingly for 10,000 years. When they could finally rule the entire world, they saw Shuryan leap up rapidly. How deep could this sorrow be? The Power Upanishad symbol tower disappeared into Shuryan's incipient extent. He tried to suppress his bloodthirsty desire, talking deliberately. Just like you guys, I want to return to desolate territory as soon as possible. I want to change the situation in desolate territory. If you think you can squeeze me or kill me, I'm telling you, you've highly appraised yourself. Then, he stopped looking at Minghong and the God Lord as starlight congregated around him and created a light cage. He stepped out and landed by Audrey and Meiji. He said, "Retreat now." What do we do with her? Audrey was apparently cautious when she gestured toward Meiji. Bring her with us, Shuryan wore an indifferent face. Do you have any other idea? No, nothing. Meiji hurried to state her opinion. I think it's better to kill her. She's not from our desolate territory. If she follows us and knows the entrance to desolate territory, it will be a lot of trouble, suggested Minghong. I agree with the point she has suggested. We can't refine the absolute beginning original symbol using the Power Upanishad symbol tower. We still need to depend on the 7 clans. We have to choose a partner. She's a good partner, anyway, said Shuryan. Meiji's inner lake rippled. Her beautiful eyes were filled with joy. Her long eyelashes batted as she was shivering slightly. She knew the meaning of the Power Upanishad symbol tower and the power of the absolute beginning original symbol. They were the marvelous items that could support the territory ancestor realm experts learning the ultimate Power Upanishad and the principle of a Power Upanishad. It was the rarest of the rarest objects. If the Phantom Clan could use the Power Upanishad symbol tower to refine the absolute beginning original symbol for their territory ancestors, their competencies would increase greatly. Her entire race would thrive. and perhaps they would become the most powerful clan among the 7 clans. Meiji smiled like a flower as if she saw a beautiful future. Don't worry. I pledge my life to go the same way as you. I will never leave on my own. She was smart and bold. She knew what they were afraid of. She didn't hesitate and gave a wisp of her soul seal, which was a triangle crystal. The icy crystal fell and hovered in front of Shuryen. It's my soul sea. You can keep it. As long as I have a different thought, you can smash it to explode my soul altogether. Shuryen was surprised. Audrey, Minghong, the God Lord, and Minghong were baffled. They looked at Meiji with a strange countenance. This woman was truly a bold and unpredictable expert. They could almost instantly confirm Meiji's characteristics. Seeing her hand over the soul sea, the others didn't object to her anymore. Brian also nodded as he appreciated the woman's virtues. It wasn't rare that someone would hand the other the soul seal. However, in most of the cases, they were forced to do that. Meiji, who deliberately did that, was rare, though. Swish! The triangle crystal hovered on Shuryen's sea of consciousness. A strange, subtle connection swarmed into his soul. He turned to Meiji, his eyes bright. He found that he was somehow closer to her. Meiji smiled, bowed to greet, and giggled. My life is in your hands. Please take care of me. Also, you have to live well. If you die, I will die with you altogether. Shuryen nodded. He was convinced by her boldness. Then, with a dark face, he turned to Audrey and Minghong. Any other idea? No one said more. They were also convinced by Meiji's deeds. No one wanted to rise more dispute. Why don't we leave now? Shuryen snorted impatiently. Let me guide us, Minghong shuddered, turning from a small bat to a gruesome, brutal soul. The way Minghong and the others had taken to enter this place is deviated and leads to somewhere rural. They aren't familiar with the sea domain of Nihility. But after Sing tamed me, he often moved around the Sea of Annihilation. Right, all of you, follow me. Turning into a ghostly shadow, Minghong pulled Audrey's soul lotus throne and moved quickly in the sea. The God Lord and Minghong didn't say anything. They followed close behind Minghong like 2 shadows. Thank you, Meiji called sweetly after the other had left. While Shuryen was still baffled, her voluptuous body had wormed into his starlight cage. Her beautiful lips pecked on his left cheek like the dragonfly gliding above the water. She said honestly, without your protection, I would have ended up like Batum and Ling Mei. I wouldn't have escaped death. Shuryen rubbed his cheek instinctively and said indifferently, You'd tried your best to protect me when the others attacked me. You risked your life with Ling Mei because of me. I don't care why you did that. Even if it's because of the power Upanishad symbol tower I owe you. I don't like to owe anybody anything. So, I want to pay you. While talking, his light cage carried him and Meiji moving toward Audrey. All right, we're done with favors. Meiji bent her head, her eyes upset. Shuryen nodded. We will not count the previous incidents. Later. We'll talk later then. Meiji was moved. She lifted her head, her eyes bright with joy. Several hours later. A piece of the sea filled with ghosts and brutal souls descended amid the ruins. Neptune, the territory ancestor realm expert of the Soul Clan, squinted and sat cross-legged inside the Soul Sea. He looked like the most fearsome ghost. He sensed for a while then mumbled, It's here. He moved around the absolute beginning vestige and reached the area where Tate was murdered. His eyes brightened. However, it wasn't because of Tate's death. He was surprised to look at the area where the power Upanishad symbol tower used to be. Observing the special traces, he said, it's unexpectedly where the power Upanishad symbol tower was placed. Then, so many souls flew out of the sea of souls underneath his body and moved in every direction to search for something. After a while, he couldn't spot any soul energy fluctuation. His face gradually darkened. I'm sure they're still in the Sea of Annihilation. I don't think I can't find you. He pondered for a while. A jet black bead was conjured in front of his eyes. The bead was shimmering and showing the faces of the Soul Clan members. All clansmen in the Sea of Annihilation, find me. He took a deep breath, his eyes open wide. A strange water current rolled at the area the power Upanishad symbol tower used to be. Slowly, it became Shuryan's face. That portrait looked like it was printed out. Find me this man. Mobilize all of our members. Then, he closed his eyes and tried to sense further. Just a kid at first sky of immortal realm. You dare to imprint your aura on the power Upanishad symbol tower. You're wasting a heavenly treasure. Chapter 1439. The entire sea of annihilation is surging. Chapter 1439. The entire sea of annihilation is surging. Neptune spread the news. From this area, his discreet searching expanded. Not long after he had gone, Forefather Dragon Lizard, Tu Shurchi, and Yun landed in the middle of ruins on the seabed. They could feel Ling Mei's lingering aura. Finally, they confirmed she was killed. I wonder who did that. Not everybody knows the relationship between Ling Mei and Forefather Han Tian. Perhaps the one who murdered her didn't know that, either. Yun felt her heart was hung up high. She was begrudging and didn't know what to do. The outstanding experts among Han Tian's sons were killed in the battlefields, and their soul altars broke while they were breaking through to the new realm. The living ones are just ordinary warriors. However, he has some excellent grandchildren. Ling Mei was the most prominent. Forefather Han Tian had high expectations of her. He had assigned her to the Sea of Annihilation to train further. She didn't fail him, indeed. She achieved a lot while working in the Sea of Annihilation. Her realm had reached the peak of immortal realm, which surprised and delighted Forefather Han Tian a lot. But now, Yun couldn't continue. Tu Shurchi also wore a heavy countenance. It's really serious this time. If Forefather Han Tian wasn't cultivating in seclusion, he should know this already. Even if he wasn't there yet, the other elders will do their best to solve this. We're in the Sea of Annihilation. We can't avoid the responsibility. If we don't give Forefather Han Tian an explanation, he will boil the entire Sea of Annihilation when he figures this out. We must do our best in this, said Yun. They quickly came to a conclusion. They ordered all members of the mysterious Sky Clan in the Sea of Annihilation to take action and search everything related to the absolute beginning vestige. On the base of the Devouring Clan in the Sea of Annihilation, a haggard old man of the Devouring Clan was chanting Gonfu's name with dull and watery eyes. He was struggling in grief. He was Gonfu's husband, GMO, who cultivated chaos power Upanishad. Just like Gonfu, he had touched dark energy and was just one step away from the territory ancestor realm. He had just returned from the Devouring Clan's headquarters with an enormous amount of materials. He had planned to build the territory with Gonfu. As soon as he arrived, his heart beat frantically. He realized he had lost the connection with Gonfu's soul. He immediately recognized that Gonfu was in danger. He chanted Gonfu's name and sent soul energy with his calling to the seabed. Gradually, he had located where Gonfu died. Then, he did what Neptune and Tu Shurchi did. He called for all members of the clan to take action. At the same time, the elders of the Black Demon Clan, Ancient Monster Clan, also sent their orders to ask their members in the Sea of Annihilation to take action and find the murderers. The Soul Clan, the Devouring Clan, the Mysterious Sky Clan, the Black Demon Clan, and the Ancient Monster Clan all had the young talents of their clan die unknowingly. They had announced that they were searching for the murderers. This incident was really rare in the long history of the Sea of Annihilation. The 5 clans also stated their big rewards for anyone who could provide precise information. As soon as the clans confirmed the information, those who gave the information would receive generous rewards. The Mysterious Sky Clan offered an immortal pellet and a bottle of spirit congealing pellet as the rewards. The Soul Clan used 5 heavenly soul beads as rewards. The heavenly soul beads were suitable for every expert at the immortal realm. It could mend the soul altar magically. Territory ancestor Neptune had refined those beads. Shimo's spouse of the Devouring Clan was killed. In his rage, he had offered many materials to refine the territory when he broke through to the territory ancestor realm to award anyone with the correct information. The Black Demon Clan promised 3 kinds of pellets to refine the body. Those pellets could produce flesh and blood chi. They were a great help to transform the body and to understand dark energy. The ancient demon clan offered a set of armor made of broken pieces of absolute beginning divine weapons as a reward. Rumor said that the said armor could resist a territory ancestor realm expert's attack 3 times. It was a precious treasure to protect one's life. The 5 clans had promised generous rewards that had shaken the entire Sea of Annihilation. So many warriors were stimulated. The immortal pellet, the spirit congealing pellet, the heavenly soul beads, the pellets that boosted the chance to understand dark energy, the armor that could resist the territory ancestor's attack 3 times. All of them were rare and extremely precious items. The onlookers were stirred. Whether they knew the truth or not, they were attracted by the big rewards the 5 clans had offered. They worked themselves into a frenzy to search the surface and the seabed. For the time being, so many powerful experts and even the hermits stopped secluding to join the crowd to search. Information related to the Power Upanishad symbol tower and the Absolute Beginning original symbol quickly spread out. This was even a bigger bomb to the other domineering clans in the Sea of Annihilation. They were all moved. The real characters who knew how precious the Power Upanishad symbol tower was finally knew why the 5 clans had offered their fundamental treasures to find someone. Also, it wasn't because of their dead members. They wanted the Power Upanishad symbol tower. The entire Sea of Annihilation was boiling. Deep under the sea, Minghao had turned into a brutal soul that looked like a monster dragon, pulling Audrey's soul lotus throne and heading in a direction. The God Lord and Minghao followed them close behind. Shuryen and Meiji shared the same light cage protection. They moved behind, but didn't go close to the others. Inside the light protection, a water drop-shaped pendant that lay on her milky chest suddenly murmured like running water. Meiji frowned and her slender finger poked the jade pendant, dipping it into her soft flesh, which emphasized her ample breasts even more. Meiji's attractive face gradually filled with black clouds as she listened to the reports sent through the jade pendant, her eyes downcast. "What happened?" asked Shuryen. Meiji's face was abnormal. She took a deep breath and frowned. "Move close to them. They should know something too." "Are you serious?" Shuryen recognized that something was wrong and pulled a solemn face. Meiji nodded with a bitter smile. Shuryen didn't say more. The light cage accelerated like a shooting star and stopped Audrey, Minghao, and the God Lord. "Hold on for a while. There's trouble." Audrey, Minghao, and the God Lord slowed down and looked at them in surprise as they didn't know what had happened. The mysterious Sky Clan, Devouring Clan, Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan have promised big rewards for any warrior in the Sea of Annihilation who could provide the information about us. Neptune even has Shuryen's portrait. "I don't know how he did that," Meiji knitted her brows. "Also, I don't know why they know about the Power Upanishad symbol tower and the Absolute Beginning original symbol. Right now, the entire Sea of Annihilation is seething. Every clan on the surface and undersea was notified. The warriors of the entire Sea of Annihilation are searching for us." Hearing her, the others discolored in fear. They knew how fatal this was. How many warriors are in this Sea of Annihilation? How many experts do they have? The God Lord didn't know much about this place. He hadn't recognized the seriousness of this news. Probably tens of millions. Of course, most of them are low-realm warriors at King God Realm and below. There are around dozens of thousands of original God Realm and incipient God Realm experts. I guess we have several thousand warriors at the Immortal Realm. As far as I know, in addition to Neptune, we have 4 Territory Ancestor Realm experts here. The God Lord smacked his lips and said nothing. Well, it isn't just about the number of experts. After the things about the Power Upanishad symbol tower spread out, more and more experts will come here. The ones working around here will come and rob the place if they have confidence. Meiji forced a smile. Is the Power Upanishad symbol tower really that precious? Minghao turned to Minghong. Minghao arranged his thoughts and then said, "Among the 7 great clan, no clan has ever had a complete Power Upanishad symbol tower. The Absolute Beginning original symbol refined by the Power Upanishad symbol tower is a great help to the Territory Ancestors. Sometimes, the Territory Ancestors find it hard to perceive the ultimate Power Upanishad. It could take up to dozens of thousands of years without discovering a clue. However, the absolute beginning original symbol can solve this problem to increase the power of the territory ancestor. Although it costs an enormous amount of material, like as much as an entire territory's worth, it will be much more worthy and practical than searching for dozens of thousands of years without a result. In this vast sea of stars, we can't count the number of the territories. Each of the 7 great clans controls dozens of territories. To them, the territories aren't really precious. They can sacrifice territory when they need to. Listening to Ming Hong, the God Lord, and Ming Hao turned to Shi Yan with desire. At this moment, they were so regretful that they hadn't taken action to let Shi Yan take the absolute beginning original symbol and the power Upanishad symbol tower. If you guys can collect enough materials to refine the absolute beginning original symbol by killing an entire territory to gather the slaves cultivating the same power Upanishad, I will consider fulfilling your wish of having an absolute beginning original symbol. Shi Yan had to comfort them when he saw their eyes. He was afraid that they would make rash decisions now. It's not a burden to me to kill creatures in a territory. You have to remember what you've promised today, said the God Lord. Ming Hao pondered for a while and then smiled at Shi Yan for the first time. He bowed to Shi Yan. Master, please help and fulfill my wish. Shi Yan sneered inwardly. He thought, when I get strong enough, who will care if you are alive or dead? Even if I help you, I will make you pay a bloody price. With that thought, he said quietly, we need to dodge this kulpa and then we will discuss this. How long is it from our location to desolate territory? Asked Audrey. Ming Hong didn't answer. He considered the distance and then said, at our speed, it will take 2 or 3 more years. The water pressure in the Sea of Annihilation is really terrifying. If we teleport, we will break our souls. Thus, Ming Hao can't help us with this. If we move on the surface, we'll encounter a lot of enemies. It will be more troublesome. Once the territory ancestors get us, we won't be far from death. Shi Yan knew that he was right. The water pressure in the Sea of Annihilation was very horrible. He didn't dare to tear the space slit undersea. If he did that, the pressure and the turbulent space current would crush him and break him. Then we still have to move undersea. Since the seabed is much wider than the surface and the water pressure is terrible, using the soul consciousness to survey and explore is also a problem. It's good for us, though, said Meiji. From now on, we must unify and go in the same direction. Shi Yan's voice was strangely calm. From now on, we will kill everyone in our way. It doesn't matter who they are. Otherwise, when the experts find out location, trouble will come unceasingly until we die. Agreed, said the God Lord with an icy cold face. Agreed. Ming Hao nodded indifferently. Understood, nodded Audrey. People then turned to Meiji. Meiji's face was ashen. If we encounter the member of our phantom clan or my good friends, you'll die now or you'll watch them die later. Choose yourself, Ming Hao told Meiji, but his eyes were gazing at Shi Yan. The God Lord, Audrey, and Ming Hong also looked at Shi Yan. Because Shi Yan had suggested killing all the warriors in their way, and Meiji was also the one he wanted to protect. Shi Yan nodded and said to Meiji, make up your mind, please. I have to be heartless now. I will kill you now, right here if you disagree with this. Okay, I agree. Meiji felt so chilled. When she got a hold of herself, she hurried to agree. She saw thick, murderous intentions in his eyes. Chapter 1440, Wantonly Massacre. Chapter 1440, Wantonly Massacre. Underscore a corner of the Sea of Annihilation seabed. 3 massive submarines that were like shuttles made of seashells were moving at a normal speed undersea. This kind of special submarine was made of seashells and specially designed for races living undersea. Different from the terrestrial races, most of the creatures living on the Sea of Annihilation seabed could endure the terrifying water pressure so they could move deeper undersea. The immensely vast Sea of Annihilation seabed was much bigger than the surface. It was so suitable for underwater creatures to live. Because of this reason, many clans that loved to live in the sea had relocated and dwelled in the Sea of Annihilation. The population of underwater creatures was much larger than the high-level living beings on the surface. The interior of the 3 submarines was magnificent with pearls, crystals, and precious gemstones. Even the bubbles there were glowing in 5-colored halos. Around 10 members of the Sea Clan had tentacles on the heads, scales on the necks, and antennae on the mouth. They didn't look similar. Anyway, they were drinking and enjoying inside the submarines, talking loudly. Some beautiful Sea Clan female attendants were moving around the submarines and serving the warriors. "Sir, the superiority continuously gives orders to us and asks us to pay attention. I heard that the 5 clans have promised big rewards to find someone." "What happened?" asked one of the Sea Clan men who was embracing a sexy lady. Some young warriors of the 5 clans had come undersea to find the absolute beginning vestige. Someone killed them all. Their seniors were enraged. They want to find the murderers. Haha, pay attention, guys. If we're lucky enough to see or catch something, we'll be filthy rich. The leader grinned and pointed at a blue crystal ball. Yan's portrait slowly emerged in the ball. This man. The entire Sea of Annihilation is searching for him. I don't know the details, but he'll be dead, certainly. Too many eyes are seeking for him. Yeah, that's why so many strangers have trespassed our territory recently. They run around like mad dogs. We thought that a great war was about to take place. It turns out they're just finding a guy. Aren't they trying to make a scene anyway? Only the ghosts know. Anyway, the entire Sea of Annihilation is chaotic now. I don't know the real reasons either. Thump, thump, thump. All of a sudden, this splendid conch-shaped submarine was filled with drum beats from a round drum that hung on the wall. No one beat it. Thump, thump, thump. The other 2 submarines had the same round drums. At the same time, they were all sounding vehemently. Many members of the Sea Clan with different shapes came from the cabins, looking baffled. The spirit sound receiving drum won't thump without reason. The 3 drums are resounding at the same time. There must be an experts around, one of them cried. This sea territory I isolated. Not many people visit here. Who are the intruders? Only the ghosts know. The people on the surface are crazy. They're trying to find someone. I guess they're intruding us again. It's so damn annoying. Guys, watch out. Those Sea Clan members screamed. The 3 submarines gathered as they stopped drinking. Humans. Strong aura. Thick murderous intention. Are we bumping into them? Abruptly, everyone's heart was palpitating restlessly. They could feel heavy pressure coming from everywhere. A figure with 2 crimson eyes appeared in front of them all of a sudden. He looked like a bloodthirsty beast with a ruthless appearance. He flung his hand and a massive toothed starlight saber grumblingly slashed down. The toothed saber was hundreds of meters long and as wide as a door. It carried the flood of starlight, subduing all the crew members of the Sea Clan in just a blink of an eye. Crack! 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 The 3 submarines were halved into 6 pieces. Around 10 warriors were halved too. Without giving the others time to counterattack, the attacker had wildly dashed over and slaughtered. It's him. He's the one that the 5 clans wants. Rich! We're gonna be rich. As long as we send the news, we'll be filthy rich. Ha ha ha. Guys, scatter and run. Spread out this news. We can receive the rewards from the 5 clans soon. The Sea Clan clansmen didn't want to fight with their lives. As soon as they recognized the attacker was the one the 5 clans had wanted, they laughed insanely and scattered. Like a bunch of mere people, they swam in different directions. More shadows appeared and stood in their ways. One of them was radiating dazzling sunlight. Another one had countless clones. A woman had thousands of brutal souls circling and dancing. Another woman had already released a sealing icy energy. They appeared out of nowhere, blocked the Sea Clan warriors, and began to attack fatally. The members of the Sea Clan screamed and shrieked. Their blood dyed the entire sea territory red. Their heads and cut limbs floated in the sea water, which was a horrible scene to see. Under their attacks, no one from the 3 submarines could escape. No one had the chance to spread the information. After the others had killed them all, they skillfully gathered the bodies and cut limbs, bringing them together with the 3 submarines to another deeper area and burying them under a coral reef. Shortly after, the blood-dyed area got diluted. The area returned to its normal condition. Inside a spacious, splendid crystal palace undersea sat a malicious-looking old man from the Sea Clan on a fulgent transparent shell. With a solemn expression, he said in a low-pitched voice, "How many crews did we lose right now?" A middle-aged Sea Clan man was on one knee in front of him. He frowned and said respectfully, 9. We've lost contact with them for 3 days. If nothing unexpected, I'm afraid they're not in a good situation. Who did that? The old man pulled a cold visage. Any commotion from our enemy? Nothing. They don't have any strange commotion. The other contemplated and then said, "Is that someone from the surface?" Recently, many people have come to the seabed to search for the guy named Shuryen. For the power Upanishad symbol tower and the rewards from the 5 clans, they are all crazy. Not them. They know it's our territory here. Even if they're from the 5 clans, they don't dare to provoke us, snorted the old man. Tribal oldie, someone is here to see you, came a hurried voice from the outside. No need for notification. I'm here. Long time no see, old friend. It has been 1,000 years, yet it seemed like it was just a blink of an eye. Neptune was sitting on so many souls. He glided into the crystal palace until he stopped in front of the old man. Emperor Sea Shark, long time no see. I'm here today to ask you for a favor. This old man was one of the strongest lords of the sea, Emperor Sea Shark. He was also the terrifying existence that the 7 great clans didn't dare to challenge. He was a territory ancestor realm expert. Turns out it's you. Emperor Sea Shark waved his hand to dismiss the guard, then snorted. Because of you terrestrial warriors, 9 crews of my clan were killed. Still, you dare to come see me? That has nothing to do with me. Neptune shook his head. Someone has tricked you. Old Shark, I know your influence on the seabed. Help me find someone. Now, I'm sure that there's not only one murderer. Meiji of the Phantom Clan is in that group too. You ask your guards to notice that. If you find them, I will reward generously. The heavenly soul bead you'd refined? Emperor Sea Shark didn't bat an eye. It's not rare to me. Of course, I know the heavenly soul beads can attract you. Old Shark, I promise you that if you can find them, when the Soul Clan gets the power Upanishad symbol tower, bring us the materials, we will refine an absolute beginning original symbol for you. Neptune promised. Emperor Sea Shark was moved. Pondering for a while, he said, "Are you sure it's a complete power Upanishad symbol tower?" Well, a power Upanishad symbol tower that is taken. You ask, is it a complete one? Neptune looked stern. Our Soul Clan has been working on it for hundreds of years. That area is mysterious with layers of illusions and barriers. No one could approach it before. That's why your Sea Clan didn't know about it. In the recent dozen years, many barriers and seals wore out. We finally located it. I just went there myself. The power Upanishad symbol tower is taken. It's true. Emperor Sea Shark was moved. He agreed. All right, I will order my subordinates to search thoroughly. Haha, with your support, no one can rob the power Upanishad symbol tower from our Soul Clan, laughed Neptune. A corner of the seabed. Many bodies were buried. They were the warriors came down here from the surface. After they were killed, it was simpler to treat their dead bodies. Shuryen was panting, his eyes red as if blood was about to drip from them. The bloodthirsty, ruthless aura on him had become thicker. He doesn't look okay, said Minghong. Audrey and Minghao were dealing with many dead bodies. They were astounded when they heard that. Minghao, you'd been with Bloodthirsty for many years. Can you see something? Minghong pondered for a while and then said, recently, we've been killing a lot of warriors in our way. He's always pioneering, killing too many people and swallowing their soul altars and essence chi. He doesn't have time to rest and digest. I think he's overloaded. The negative emotions will backfire him. If he continues this way, he will lose his mind, and it will mean trouble. Minghao kept silent. Since Shuryen had decided to begin their massacre along the way, they had killed at least hundreds of warriors. After killing each group of warriors, they would clean the scene, leaving no trace for the others to track them down. They didn't have a moment to rest. Shuryen could sense the danger. On the way, he had greedily used the devouring power Upanishad to swallow a lot of energy. However, he couldn't have enough time to refine and stabilize his mind. Currently, his negative aura had thickened. His garnet eyes hadn't recovered for a long time. The energy fluctuating from him had become abnormal. When we besieged and killed Bloodthirsty at the end, he looked like Shurian now. He had completely lost his mind, intervened the God Lord. He had become absolutely crazy and turned into a killing beast. He had devoured all the time and didn't stop to refine the energy. His soul altar backfired. It's the main reason why we could finish him. Shurian's situation now is very similar to Bloodthirsty that year. Hearing him say so, everybody became insecure and stern. Because once Shurian burst out a rampage, the ones who were near him were going to be affected first. As his partners, they would have to swallow the terrible consequence first. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.